Good evening. Until the microphone, there it is on. We were without electricity a little while ago, so now we have electricity. Otherwise, it'd be like a seance in here. Member Venegas, would you kindly lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance? I'd ask you all to rise and turn your cell phones on quiet. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You want to do the board affirmation? All right. Board affirmation statement, please.
Our mission is to ensure that all students are prepared for college and a successful life, academically, socially, and emotionally, as well as equipped with the necessary tools to have options and make decisions about their long-term goals. This will be accomplished by believing and working towards all students learning through rigorous curricula and meaningful, effective instruction, consequently demonstrating mastery on high-quality assessments, with all stakeholders being held accountable throughout the process.
Thank you. Treasurer's or agenda, Dr. Mitchum, if you would please.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask the board to approve the agenda as revised.
Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Moving down the agenda, Treasurer's report. Mr. Gazafi.
Treasurer's Action Report 5.1, as prepared by Joanne Borg, our treasurer, includes the financial reports, balance sheets, summary of revenue and expenditures, encumbrances, as well as the interim obligations for February 2015 totaling $3,575,692.82 for your consideration this evening.
Motion to accept the Treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Felice,
Yes.
Secretary Hansen,
Yes.
Vice President Gugis,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Gary.
Action Report 5.2 is consideration of the schedule of bills for March 2015 totaling $2,520,241.58.
Motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Felice,
Yes.
Secretary Hansen,
Yes.
Vice President Gugis,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes.
We've got the usual bevy of reports, summary of investments for February, the state funding update through February, as well as the all schools trust account activity presented for your information this evening.
Motion to accept.
No motion.
Oh, it's not a
needed.
motion,
No
not necessarily, just an information item. Sorry about that. State funding update, we're about the same as we have been the last meeting. It's creeping up a little bit, isn't it?
Every month, a little bit with the state free lunch and breakfast. Right now, state's in arrears, $4,949,000 to Valley View.
Thank you. Consent agenda, Dr. Mitchum.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to ask that the board approve consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.6. 6.1 board meeting minutes, February 9th, 2015. 6.2 board meeting minutes, February 23rd, 2015. 6.3 executive session meeting minutes, February 23rd, 2015. 6.4 student activity contract, Bolingbrook High School with adrenaline fundraising. 6.5 trips for Bolingbrook High School, and 6.6 gifts for Independence, Jonas Salk, Woodview, and Brooks Middle School.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Felice,
Yes.
Secretary Hansen,
Yes.
Vice President Gugis,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Pillars of Valley View. First up, Mr. Laverty, Humphrey Middle School. I believe Member Campbell is going to present the pins.
Yeah, some aspect to it.
Is your awardee here? Why don't you just give us a school update while we're waiting? How's things in Humphrey? Come on.
Things are going great. We've had
That's
a
what I like to hear.
Great start to second semester.
Had a nice little run at the basketball
Had a
tournament.
great run
Very
at the
nice,
basketball
very
tournament.
nice.
They're a fun team to watch. Starting track.
They need to
and,
televise those so some people could get.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. What else you got?
We're starting. Park's gone off. We've
Very
started.
nice,
Park the
very
last
nice.
couple
Good to hear.
days.
get the snow off the sidewalks and it's melting.
Yeah, it's melting.
Be outside
Kids are
playing pretty
excited to
soon.
be outside.
Baseball season? Not for
Not
junior high.
baseball.
That's for
yeah.
high school.
Track and
Track coming up.
chess team was at state over the weekend.
There we
They
go.
did well.
Huge.
Here we go. Here's Jackie.
Good to see. Here we go. And now we can proceed.
Good evening. I'm the principal at Humphrey Middle School. That threw me off. Sorry, Yolanda. Let's try it again. Good evening. I'm the principal at Humphrey Middle School. Good evening, school board and senior leadership. It's a pleasure to announce Jackie Miwas as a pillar of Valley View. Jackie is our special education bilingual aide. She has been with Valley View School District since 2008 and a resident of Romeoville the past 10 years. Jackie was chosen as a pillar of Valley View because of her dedication to our school and our students. Jackie not only does all of our translations for us, but she is an asset in the classroom she's in every day. She engrosses herself into each classroom she is assigned. She pre-reads novels. She finds supplemental material to share with each teacher and is engaged with the students. She goes above and beyond in everything she does. It's an honor to announce Jackie Miwas as a Humphreys Pillar of Valley View.
Next up, Jonas Salk Elementary School. And Member Hanson. Sorry. Secretary Hanson. You gonna give us an update, what's going on at Salk too? Or are you just gonna read the strip?
Everything is wonderful there, of course.
what we
all
like to hear.
smiles, we're all happy. Happy to be here tonight. Well, good evening, school board members, Dr. Mitchum, senior leadership, colleagues in Valley View community. I am Laura Lucas, principal of Jonas Salk Elementary, and I am very honored to be speaking about one of our two pillars of Valley View from Jonas Salk, Miss Nikki Fagus. Nikki Fagus is one of our fourth grade teachers in our co-taught classroom. Even though this is Nikki's first year, not only teaching fourth grade, but as a co-teacher, she has shown that she is a leader on that team. Through her collaboration, listening skills, critical thinking, and ability to solve any problem, she has become a huge asset to that team. She is also a leader in other ways. She is one of our highly utilized tech coaches. She is a safety team member in the mornings and is always present at after-school events. I believe that one of Nikki's colleagues best sums up what makes Nikki so special. And I'm going to quote her. I would like to nominate Nikki as a pillar because she always goes above and beyond for her students. She is kind-hearted to staff and families, and she differentiates her instruction to ensure she is addressing each student's individual needs. She is excellent at collaboration. She is welcoming, supportive, and a positive presence at JES. I would agree with that. Staff member, please join me in congratulating Nikki Fagus.
Good evening, I'm Jean Bruno, and I'm the assistant principal at Jonas Salk Elementary School. And tonight I have the pleasure of sharing our second pillar with you, and it is Mr. Hector Corona. Hector is our bilingual supported education teacher at Jonas Salk. Hector is required to do quite a balancing act in his position. He works alongside 6 teachers and 3 bilingual aides, but he does this daily with poise, understanding, preparedness, and a true sense of collaboration. In addition to his classroom duties, Hector began a morning math club, attends after-school events, and is part of our building's visible learning team. I believe Hector's colleagues summed it up best when they nominated him for this honor by saying, Hector continually goes above and beyond what is expected and does it with a smile on his face, is very supportive of all students and staff. He's a role model we can all look up to. He is joined with him tonight by his loving wife, Elva, who also works at SCOFF in the district, and his 3 beautiful children. Please join me in congratulating Hector Corona, a pillar of Valley View.
Let's see. Class 7 4A basketball, number 2 in the state, IES 8A. I'm guessing we're going to be talking to Humphrey again. Come on. So what's going on, Humphrey?
We have a basketball team that
Oh, nice.
plays
There
second
you go.
in the
Very nice to hear. Well dressed, I might add.
Yep. Again, good evening. Dan Laverty at Humphrey Middle School. Just like to, before introducing our basketball team, they had a great run. They finished second in the state. They played well. They were a fun team to watch on the court, but they represented themselves in a high manner outside of the court. And I'll let Coach Simmons explain everything about how great this team is, and Coach Ipama. So here's Coach Simmons.
Come on up. Guys, step in.
Thank you.
Come on.
Just
Get over there behind your coach so you can see on TV.
come on in, guys. Don't be scared.
You want to see
All right.
yourself on
Yeah,
TV?
like
Look
Mr.
right
Wright
over
already
there
said,
at the
this
screen.
team we ended up 19-4 this year. Second in state, actually making Humphrey history, being the first boys team to get down to state. So it was a real accomplishment. It was a memorable experience. Just if I go over just one story, I think that kind of made it for us. Just memorable was, we were in Pontiac, we were staying overnight, and it's about a half hour away from where we were going to be playing the next day. So we stopped in at a family restaurant, and we had a great dinner, and a few times, we had a couple of patrons come up to us and say, your boys are really well behaved, they're very nice young men, and, we didn't think anything of it. And then at the very end of the dinner, we were going to pick up our tab, and the waitress said it had already been taken care of. So we brought over the manager and we asked him, what was going on, and he said that an anonymous patron didn't want to be known, just said that your boys are very nice young men, and it was on him. And I think that's one of the things that's nice about this experience was, we always talk about athletics being, kind of what it was about, but it really was about the experience. It was about how good young men these are. And that's what I'm always going to take away from this experience. It's just the basketball was great, but just that, that these guys are some fine young men. So I'm really glad that they're being recognized here. So I'll go ahead and just recognize Joe Corso. Zaquayo Biggs.
Good job, Joe.
Marquail Biggs. David Brooks. Rafael Asensio. Keontae Thomas. And then these guys couldn't be with us tonight. Josue Martinez, Christian Nandonki, Chris Williams, and Marco Villagomez, and Devin Jones. So again, we really want to thank the board for recognizing these guys. We want to thank all the staff, all the parents that supported us this year. It was just a memorable and just a truly great experience. So thank you very much.
While they're getting their picture taken, guys, character counts. Thank you for representing not only your school, but the community that you play basketball and live in, and representing your families as well. It all adds up, so thank you. Two of you guys look awful alike, I don't know. Your mom and dad shopping at the same stores? Thanks, guys. ISHA Girls Bowling. Rob Rose, Assistant Principal, Bolingbrook High School, and the Bowlers.
Members of the community,
President Quigley, members of the board, senior leadership, Dr. Mitchum. My name is Rob Rose, Assistant Principal of Bolingbrook High School. First, I'd just like to give kudos to the families, parents of those kids for raising such fine young men. Looking forward to have them at Bolingbrook High School in the near future. I have the honor of introducing several students tonight. First up, we have one girls bowling state qualifier in Felicia Montesinos. She's been with the program for 4 years and certainly was the anchor of our program, I would say, for the last 4 years, and really going to miss her and what she brought day in and day out to the program and how she represented Bolingbrook High School. So with that said, I will introduce our head girls bowling coach, Jen Laverty, who will say a few words about Felicia.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Good evening, board, senior leadership. Just to talk a little bit about Felicia. She's the second bowler in BHS girls bowling history to actually make it to the state tournament, which is an unbelievable accomplishment. For her senior year, she did average a 205 average, and if anybody bowls in here, you know that's a pretty tough average to keep. A list of her accomplishments for the season, I'm just going to list them off because there's quite a few. She had 7 600 3-game series, which is about over a 200 average for 3 games. She had 2 700 3-game series. She took second place individually in our Saxton tournament. She took first place individually in the Fremd and the IMSA invite. She took 5th place individually in our SWSC conference tournament with a first game of a 296, which 300 is a perfect game. She was also named all conference in the SWSC conference tournament. 3rd place individually in the IHSA regional tournament, 2nd place in the sectional tournament. She's currently deciding on which college to attend to continue her bowling career. She has many offers from many schools, so she's going to each one and deciding which one fits her needs. She's a tremendous asset on the team and an exceptional leader for all the girls. They continually look up to her throughout the whole entire season, in and out. And she'll truly be missed next year, and we wish her the best of luck in college. Thank you.
Remember, Gugis and I were talking. We bowled 300 game, but it was 2 games. That's about right.
Next up, we had 2 students who qualified for state in chess. One of who could not be here tonight, Ryan Engelman. Xavier, I hope I don't butcher this too much, Sepulveda, I like it. Okay. This year, our past sponsor for chess was Jen Burt. Jen transitioned out of Bolingbrook High School to another position, and Michael Schwartz came in and was a co-sponsor and really did a phenomenal job, and Mike's going to continue with chess in the years to come, but really great job to both Mike as a coach and Xavier and Ryan this year as chess state qualifiers. The good news is Xavier is a junior and Ryan is a sophomore, so hopefully we can make it back down there next year and the year after for Ryan. So I'll introduce Michael Schwartz, chess sponsor.
Good evening. Good evening, board members, parents, and students. As the new chess coach at Bolingbrook High School, I'm honored to stand here to celebrate the accomplishments of 2 shining stars, Ryan Engelman and Xavier Sepulveda. It is with great pride that I honor these students that they've shown tireless effort to represent themselves, their team, and their school in their performances this year. It is due to this effort that we're able to compete at a higher level than years previous, and I look forward to seeing these students raise the level of play for both their team and division in the future. Unfortunately, Ryan could not make it tonight, but I'm proud to mention his accomplishments as he placed 1st in our division this year, having only lost 1 game all season. Ryan's focus on the chessboard is unparalleled, and his commitment to chess is both a boon and a tribute to his team and his school. Ryan is one of those players that makes you say, boy, I'm glad this guy's on our side. My sincerest congratulations to Ryan. It is unfortunate he could not be here. I would also, thank you. It is also with great pleasure that I introduce Xavier Sepulveda. Xavier has shown nothing but integrity this year, and due to his tireless efforts as a chess team member, he has earned himself a spot as a medalist in this year's IHSA State Chess Tournament. His impeccable attention to detail is evident in his dress, his demeanor, and his results on the chessboard. Congratulations, Xavier and Ryan. Thank you.
Coach, I'm sorry, Coach, what does
Yes.
it mean? What does it mean that he was board 8? What is that?
It says
mean?
board 8 on our, what does that mean?
He was board 8. Okay, so we have a ranking system of 1 through 8 for our players on varsity, and he was in the 8th board spot. So during the
Is that
tournament,
like the anchor?
he's the anchor.
There you go.
And he came through, and he held the ship down. Well, wait, let me strike that, reverse it. He held the ship. Well, he held the ship in place. Let's put it that way.
Back to the anchor.
Hey, well done, Mr. Zuckerberg. Congratulations.
Bolingbrook High School, Illinois State Scholars. There's probably the rest of the people that are in the back. Oh, we got one more. I'm sorry, Rob. I'm sorry. Never mind. Culinary competition.
Last but certainly not least, Richard Taylor is a student of ours. There's not a year goes by that we don't recognize some of our FCCLA students for their achievements. Richard was a star culinary competition state qualifier, and certainly like to credit Colleen Kerrigan, who is here, and Deb Taylor, who could not be here tonight. So I'd like to bring up Colleen Kerrigan, who will say a few words about Richard Taylor.
Good evening, board members, senior leadership, and VVSD community. Standing before you, well, first let me tell you what FCCLA is, and for those of you who don't know. It stands for Family, Community, Careers Leaders of America, and it's just a national organization that kind of pairs up with Family and Consumer Sciences, which used to be home ec classes, and it runs all across the country and even into some other countries as well, but kids have a chance to do service projects as well as competitions and a whole variety of things. So, standing before you is one extremely talented, hardworking, and dedicated student, Richard Taylor. Not only is Richard an outstanding student in my culinary classroom, but I've also had the honor of working with him over the past few months in preparation for the FCCLA culinary competition. Throughout the month of January, Richard practiced his culinary skills in preparation for the regional competition. Richard was chosen as one of 3 students from BHS to attend this competition based on his hard work and skills in my culinary classroom. At regionals, Richie was paired up with students from different schools around the Chicagoland area in a Chopped-like competition, if any of you have watched that show. They had 1 hour to prepare a meal and present it to the judges. Out of 30 students at the competition, Richie was chosen 1 out of 9 students to move on to the state star culinary competition. I'm looking forward to seeing how Richie performs here at the state level, and please join me in wishing him luck as he brings his culinary skills to state on March 31st at Kendall College in downtown Chicago.
Made Kung Pao chicken. And if you have any, if you need guinea pigs to try something out, I didn't get this fat by not eating. So bring it on. Bolingbrook High School, Illinois State Scholars.
Good evening,
Principal
President
Jordan.
Quigley, School Board, Dr. Mitchum, Senior Leadership, and VVSD community. I would like to introduce you to Bolingbrook High School's Illinois State Scholars. The Illinois Student Assistant Commission bestows this recognition to top Illinois high school students, the best and the brightest of Illinois high school seniors in the class of 2015. Selection is based on SAT, ACT, or Prairie State Achievement Exam scores and or class rank at the end of the junior year. High school guidance counselors work with ISAC to determine the winners. We want to thank and commend families, teachers, guidance counselors, coaches, and mentors for our students for helping them achieve their goals. Students, we hope that this academic experience encourages you to pursue post-secondary education as you clearly have a high potential for success in college. Congratulations, scholars. So our first scholar is Evan Adams. Congratulations. Whatever you like. Cassidy Gold.
Nice try. Nice try.
Caroline Harvey. Jennifer Huffnagel. Matthew Jaskowiak. Oh, we had Kendra Johnson, but that's clearly not Kendra. Robert Kaminsky. Walter Klepfer. Rachel Lockler. Molly McCosick. Elaine Owusu. Angelina Perez. Miranda Reinert. Nicholas Skurlin.
Good job, thank you.
David Strafaki.
Good job.
Ashley Teleferro. Kelsey Walgren. And Rachel Wood.
Congratulations. Come on, parents. We know you want a picture too.
Make sure the lens cap is off, Steve.
Wait, no, look over there. No, wait, look over here. Over there. Over there.
Wow.
And you don't become Illinois State Scholars by sitting around listening to meetings like this. We know you guys have stuff to do, so once you're done, you can go ahead and follow your way out the door. But thank you. Everybody done? Couple more. Nice job, one and all. Larry, did you get yours? All right. Thank you, parents. As they're exiting, from my right, board liaison reports. From my left, board liaison reports.
No report.
I have one brief update. I had a chance to meet with the governor's chief of staff along with our lobbyists in Springfield a week ago. It was not one of the, what I would call a great meeting, but it wasn't a bad meeting. We discussed some of the budget cuts and some of the budget issues that the governor's proposed in his budget. The General Assembly has not yet acted on those issues. Of course, that's going to be a long tried process through the General Assembly. Hoping education is the priority that those who are in charge say it is. Again, I'm very concerned about the state of affairs in the General Assembly and the state of Illinois' budgets, because what they do affects how we are afforded our monies as well. As Gary mentioned earlier, we're $5 million in arrears from state payments. This also has an effect on how we go to the market for bonding purposes and what have you. The state's ability to pay back the debts that it is owed affects our ability to borrow money as well. It's a trickle-down effect, but that's just the way the financial markets work. So hopefully they will make the priorities that they say are priorities, and we will come out with an education budget that is fair. And again, I'll say it, I've said it 100 times up here, the state needs to fund education appropriately in the state of Illinois. So we're not 49th or whatever, 48th, 49th, whatever we are. But they need to continue to find ways to make it right. So that's it. Audience participation, anybody who wishes to address the board this evening, please step forward, state your name if you would please.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Gura. I'm a Romeoville resident, and I have come here tonight because of the potential changes to the Challenge program. While I applaud the district's desire to provide advanced instruction through a new program called Project Excel, I am highly disappointed that the district would consider cutting the second grade self-contained Challenge classroom. The second grade Challenge classroom is the foundation of the elementary education gifted program. It is a place for academically gifted children to think creatively and work with like-minded kids their own age. They are in a classroom where they are finally not bored, where the sky is the limit, and where teachers are trained to deal with their idiosyncrasies. The program has grown in recent years. Several years ago at R.C. Hill, there was only one second grade Challenge class, but the past 2 years, there have been 2 second grade Challenge classrooms. That growth indicates a successful program, but now you're considering taking away both of these classes and replacing it with Project Excel that wouldn't even start until the 3rd quarter. This is a huge disadvantage to the children who need advanced education. If the goal of the district is to continue improving the quality of education and providing a more rigorous curriculum, then the district should keep the second grade self-contained Challenge class while also introducing a pull-out program for students talented in language arts and math. My older son greatly benefited from second grade Challenge class several years ago, and he continues to benefit from the Challenge program to this day. I applaud these teachers and everything they do to advance these children's minds. I believe children are like sponges, and if you give them the materials, they will absorb it. So what problem are we trying to fix by getting rid of the second grade classroom? We have a growing program that has successfully prepared our brightest second graders for years of academic excellence. The only reasoning we're given in this proposal to drop second grade Challenge is a vague notion that first grader skills are difficult to assess. This rings particularly disingenuous when I see my own first grader differentiated into math, reading, and vocabulary groups within the first 2 months of the school year. Project Excel will provide opportunities to a diverse group of students. However, I see no benefit in slowing down our district's brightest students and delaying their entrance into the Challenge program. First grade children at R.C. Hill have already been identified as potential candidates for the Challenge program. Dozens of parents, such as myself, have already received letters in early February saying that their children were going to be given the NNAT test for possible participation. Many of these parents probably don't even realize that their children have already taken a test for a program that may not even exist next year. We want to give our children the very best education possible. These children are our future leaders of the district and of the community. I've personally witnessed the envy of others when they hear about the Challenge program. I hope that the school board will continue to push to have the best programs in the area and not simply follow what other districts are doing. I urge you to keep the second grade self-contained Challenge classroom for next year. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Michelle, I wanted to say tonight's an information, so they're going to present the information. There won't be any vote had on it tonight.
Thank you very much.
And then also, I think if during that information, if you have any questions, I mean, it's a little outside of protocol, but I see a couple parents here. I don't think they would mind you asking those questions.
And I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yep. And if you need to have a separate meeting or something too, I mean, the staff is available for that anytime. So, Hi.
Good evening. I am extremely nervous and hate public speaking, so you must know that I'm passionate about this subject. My name is Karen Hodgson. I have 3 children, a 6th grader at Jane Addams, a 4th grader at R.C. Hill, and a 1st grader at Jamie McGee. I was a member of the Challenge Committee until this fall when work commitments prevented me from continuing. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee for their hard work in generating a recommendation to the school board. However, I have concerns about that recommendation. While on the committee, it was discussed many times how we were not looking to remove anything from the Challenge program, but to make sure what we have in place is adequate to meet the needs of our gifted students and to address the needs of those students that fall short of entrance into the program but are still high achievers or are talented in one subject but not overall gifted. Therefore, I was dismayed to learn of the committee's final recommendation to remove the 2nd grade Challenge program and to replace it with a program of clustering students and a half year of Project Excel. In my opinion, to replace the 2nd grade Challenge program that has done so much for the district's gifted students, including my son Caden, with one that is not only unproven in the district, but that only offers services for the gifted and talented in the second half of the school year is a poor recommendation. I have many questions about the program, but these are just a few. How specifically will the program meet the needs of the gifted 2nd grader in the first half of 2nd grade? Having had a child who is off the charts with his math ability, I do not see how clustering students in a regular classroom will meet the needs of those 2nd graders who already know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, and more. What is the reasoning behind making language arts a pull-out program, but not math? How is enriched grouping of math going to work with only a small group of students in the classroom using the Eureka Math curriculum? While I was impressed with the committee's decision to add Project Excel to the program as a means of addressing the needs of the high achievers in the district, I do not understand why the program is only for half of the 2nd grade year. My daughter Sophie, who's also here, was tested for the program, and while I don't know her test scores or whether she would be qualified as gifted, I do know that she needs a challenge now, not in January 2016. In closing, I ask you to think about these 7-year-old children sitting in a classroom in the fall, so excited to learn, only to be faced with a curriculum that they have already mastered. If this was your child, would you feel that their needs were being met? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would offer the same to you. If you have questions during the presentation, let us know. Thank you.
Again, please state your name.
Sure. Michelle Sweeney Abrams, mother of many. It's true, sorry. I'm here tonight to ask a question and also to say a thank you to the board. My question is, if the state replaces the ACT with PARCC permanently, what's going to happen to our college-bound students, since PARCC is not, as far as I know, is not acknowledged by any college or higher education to date? Are we going to have to foot the bill for that as parents?
This year, the state did fund the ACT, and we have not received information if they will fund it next year. They are very aware of the problem that you just voiced, as are we and many other people involved in education. Our kids need the ACT until such time that higher ed recognize some other assessment in the same way that they do the ACT and SAT. Then we need to provide it to our kids. And so there's a lot of conversation going on at the state level. We don't yet know what the state will determine in terms of funding, but then we would as a district have to make that determination, because to me it's a vital opportunity for our kids to take that. And then they can always take another test on a national test date if they would like, but we don't yet know.
Do we have someone working with the legislators who are working on the graduation requirements as well with regards to PARCC?
That's another topic that's still kind of in limbo. We do have a lot of people advocating at the state level. School code has not caught up yet with that assessment change. So we're very much aware of the concerns that you raise, as are every other district in the state of Illinois. And so as soon as we know that, we will communicate that to our kids. What I can tell you is that our juniors did take the ACT next year, and I would assume for the foreseeable future we will continue to proctor the ACT to our kids, because they really do need it. It's a entry ticket into applying to higher ed.
Do you know if the state is figuring on helping fund the ACT, or is it just going to fund a park? I have a child that's stuck in the middle right now at the high school.
Right. Last I was told that it was written into the budget. It had not been approved. It was kind of a second priority. And so we will find out if it's been approved for next year once that's finalized. And so we don't know. And then at that point, we would make a decision as a district if we could shift resources so that we would fund it if the state did not fund it. Because at this point, we just can't let our kids get caught in the middle, as you said. And so we are looking at our budget in the event that it would not be covered. But we're on top of it. We're trying to get answers, and as soon as we have them, we will certainly share with our students and with our families.
I appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you for looking out for our college-bound students.
Absolutely.
My other thing is I wanted to also say thank you to the staff at my children's schools for treating them with respect while they exercise their constitutional rights to protest. They protested the park by refusing to take the park test, and this is making them a Code 15 refusal under the ISBE code. That's the code that says the child can simply refuse the test because there is no opt-out for parents. Parents have no rights with regards to this test. My children decided to go ahead and use their right to refuse and exercise their constitutional rights after we did some research and found that this test does not count for anything essentially this year, and that it is not recognized by any colleges anywhere, and that it's going to be taking away more instructional time if park is allowed to continue. So I just want to say thank you for treating my children with respect and allowing them to refuse the test and read. They are actually reading some assignments, or not their assignments, but their novels while the test is going on. So they're getting some sort of an education. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, action reports. Dr. Mitchum.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to ask that the board approve student due process cases A through G as amended.
Motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Felice?
Yes.
Secretary Hansen?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Next up, Ms. Kinder.
No report this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Grizafi, bus leases.
Yes, three actions, beginning with the Resolution 1508, approving a bus trust lease agreement with Midwest Transit to replace 59 of our buses who are coming, or whose lease is expiring on June 30th. This was presented at our last meeting for a 5-year lease with an annual lease payment of $657,449. While our annual payment will increase by $93,000 for next year, the overall lease costs are $124,000 less due to the previous lease being front-loaded, meaning the lower payments were in years 3 through 5. So some good news there, and we are recommending the approval of the lease as presented, pending attorney review and approval.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on buses?
I appreciate all the work of our transportation department to have first-class buses to transport over half our kids twice a day.
How many? 20,000?
Riders a day.
10,000 twice a day, right? Thank you. And a lot of those kids are special need kids, and they do a great job getting everybody around. They do a really nice job, and with the foul weather and everything else. One of the previous people sitting up here at this dais said, "I'm always amazed by the number of people who want to run into our big yellow buses." That seems to be down a little bit this year. Maybe the weather's been a little bit of a factor. It's not been as bad as it was, but it is amazing by the number of people who run into our big yellow buses. So we have a motion, we have a second. And if there's no other discussion, roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Felice?
Yes.
Secretary Hansen?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Mr. Grizafi.
Second action this evening in regards to a grant that the district was fortunate enough to receive via IEMA, or the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, offered under the Illinois School Security Grant Program. Grant recipients are required to complete all the projects via the grant in 1 year, which for us would conclude by June 30th of 2015. We approach this in 2 phases, one being the lockdown alert system expansion, where there are lights and school panics at all of our buildings to provide a visual and audio alert in the exterior in the event of a lockdown inside the building. Total funding for that equals $79,325, and the procurement of materials and installation was all done by in-house staff. Part 2, which is the approval we're seeking this evening, is to provide district video surveillance systems at all of our buildings, providing 5 additional cameras at our high schools, 4 cameras and a monitoring recording device at the middle schools, and 3 cameras and monitoring devices at the elementary schools. Total for that project is $360,000, bringing the total grant funding approval of $439,325. We are seeking approval today for a contract with Graybar under a U.S. Communities procurement system in the amount of $371,000 with grant reimbursement for $360,000 to cover the cameras I just outlined, with a net cost to the district of $11,234 to be paid for via the budget and operations budget that was built into the budget for this year. So really a good project for us to provide, again, video surveillance at all buildings throughout the district.
Was this 12.2 and 12.3? I know 12.1 was brought for information. Have 12.2 and 12.3 been brought for information?
They have not.
I mean, I just think as our practice is, anytime we spend money, that we bring forth these items for information before we bring them for action. So I struggle when we bring things forth for action without first having presented them to the public as information items to give the public chance to view them. Is there a time constraint that's on either of these that would preclude bringing them for action?
There is not, other than the work would have to be complete for 12.2 for the video surveillance by June 30th. Again, this is all grant funds. I mean, we're talking about a district expense of $11,000.
Okay. And then the second one, what's the district?
The second one is really an approval for life safety, use of life safety funds. All of the projects that are enumerated on that list would need to come back to the board for approval. This is really just giving us approval to submit to the Will County Clerk to verify that the life safety funds would be used for life safety purposes. Again, all of the work there would have to come back to the board for approval, project by project.
So the money on the life safety funds is an estimate? Are those,
it is an estimate.
Those are
Correct.
estimates, okay, thank you.
So we're not spending any money on 12.3?
Correct.
Right.
I think it would be prudent for us on 12.2, if it's not a time crunch, to table that for now and put that as an information report to give everyone time to look at it. While I don't see anything controversial, I think our practice is a sound one to let the community look at things, have an information item, then vote on it. It appears with the life safety that we aren't approving any expenditure of funds, so when those funds come, there will be information and action. But I would ask that we table 12.2. I would need a second for that.
Second?
I'll make a second to table.
We have a motion and we have a second to table that action item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Motion is tabled.
Action 12.3 is a request seeking approval of request for authorization to use fire prevention and safety funds for the projects enumerated therein in the amount of $2,376,000. As I previously mentioned, you're not approving any of the actual bids for the work. They are just estimates. Each of those projects, because of the cost involved there, would need to come back to the board for final approval. There's a letter attached to the information there from the Will County Clerk expressing the need for us to file a certificate of approval for the expenditures no later than the last week of March. Again, this work is work that has been determined to be needed throughout the district. Roofs, brick repair at one of our schools, a boiler plant at one of the elementaries, and upgrading our fire alarms and intercom systems that are either aging out, failing due to lightning strikes, what have you. And so most of the work here would be done in a short period of time, meaning in the next 1 to 3 years. The intercom and fire alarm systems most likely would be done over the next 5 years. And so again, I am seeking approval, again, just to give me
Notify the
authorization.
clerk of the intention?
Correct.
Thank you. So if you said these are going to be expended funds over the next 4 or 5 years, these bids may not come in, they may come in over the next 4 or 5 years, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay, so each project will be bid individually?
Or together, like
Yeah,
the roofs
but-
might.
yeah, right, okay. All right, thank you. Motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say, I guess we need a roll call. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Felice?
Yes.
Secretary Hansen?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Ms. Hawks?
Thank you, President Quigley. Action Report 13.1 this evening is the revised consolidated action report for certified and classified personnel. We're seeking your approval on 17 items for certified, 17 items for classified personnel, 3 items for administrative classified personnel, and 1 item for administrative certified personnel.
Motion?
So moved.
We have
Second.
a motion and a second. 1, 2. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Felice?
Yes.
Secretary Hansen?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
My second action report this evening is 13.2, resolution number 1509, and we are seeking the board's approval to consider the adoption of the resolution approving the settlement agreement and general release.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Felice?
Yes.
Secretary Hansen?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Information reports.
Yes, thank you, President Quigley. Tonight we have 3 information reports, all related to elementary, so there's a lot going on in the elementary world. We saw some of our most dedicated student representatives tonight. We have some of our most dedicated teacher and administrative representatives with us this evening as well. So without further ado, information report 14.1 is providing information prior to seeking approval for the adoption of a new mathematics curriculum for grades 3-5 in elementary. Eureka Math. And I would like to ask Adam Herder to come up to the podium. He's the Director for Math and Science for Pre-K 5, and he's going to share with you information regarding this proposed adoption. He's joined tonight by many dedicated teachers that have been involved in this work, and they'll be sharing their professional opinions based on their firsthand experience. So thank you for being here, and I'll turn it over to Adam. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, board members, members of the community. As Assistant Superintendent Kinder mentioned, this presentation is information about a proposal to adopt an alternate core curriculum for math in grades 3, 4, and 5. The name of that curriculum is Eureka Math. To clarify, we are only talking about grades 3, 4, and 5 beginning next fall, and this would be a replacement in those grade levels of the McGraw-Hill MyMath program that it was currently used for the past 3 years. Just some context, the McGraw-Hill MyMath program was initially a 5-year adoption beginning in the 2012-2013 school year. We would be using a significant amount of the materials that were purchased with the adoption of that program, including several hands-on manipulatives, those that supplement the manipulatives that we had talked about in the past with prior board items, learning centers and leveled readers specific to math topics. We also have arrangements for a credit that can be used for any of the unused consumable math books that were originally part of the McGraw-Hill MyMath adoption. And then just to clarify, grades kindergarten, first, and second grade will not change in terms of district direction for core curriculum next year, but of course we have a long-term plan that aligns well with what we're presenting tonight for the upper grades in elementary school. Very exciting news at the end of last week. There's an organization called Ed Reports, and it's funded in part by a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and it was created to evaluate Common Core curriculum programs. So they analyzed 20 different programs over the last several months, and just in time for this information report at the end of last week, the results were published, and the only program of the 20 that they analyzed that they found to be in alignment with the new Common Core learning standards was Eureka Math. So it was very validating for the work we have been doing, and I included a link in the PowerPoint that's on Board Docs, of course, for anyone who's interested in reading the article specifically about that. The program was also written...
Mr. Herder
Yeah.
is being modest. The program program, the report ripped about 19 programs that and curriculums that claim to be Common Core aligned. One was even named math for the Common Core or something to that effect, and was not. The program, so it's regardless of your feelings on Common Core, it's fantastic, but regardless of what your feelings are about Common Core, all these curriculums stated that they were aligned to Common Core, 20 of them. And the one that was, only one was found to be, and Mr. Herter had picked this one for our district prior to that coming out. So I appreciate your due diligence to make sure to look beyond the title and to look to make sure that it was. I was quite excited myself when I saw that. So thank you for that. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate the context. A quick story. I've been checking every day the Ed Reports website for about 4 months.
Mr. Herter was also very excited when that report came out.
And then my wife and I, well, my wife had a child, and so I was a little preoccupied, and I had to be notified by somebody that actually the report had come out. I probably would have missed it in my haze of lack of sleep, so it was a little bit timely. This program is unique in many ways. We'll play a short video snippet that's only a minute long and 1 second. It summarizes a couple things. The program was written by teachers for teachers by a company called Great Minds, which is actually a nonprofit organization. This is in no way a major publishing company like several of the other vendors that we use and buy quality materials from. However, it really underscores the Ed Reports point that this really is the only curriculum that was validated by educational experts as being appropriate for teaching the new learning standards. And so we'll go ahead and just play the 1 minute clip here. Just kidding, we won't. So what the clip says, and it is only 1 minute, so we're not really missing a lot. The link to the whole 6 minute video is available in the presentation if anyone is interested. What the clip does, importantly, is summarize how students learning and teachers actually teaching the core math that's in the standards is what is the focus of this program. It was written exclusively after the Common Core was written, and it's the only math program that can make that claim because all of the others are programs at the elementary level that had Common Core aspects put into prior math programs. So if anyone is interested, the video is available. There are 3 reasons that we'd like to express in terms of rationale for adopting the Eureka Math program. The main one, and we're going to pause briefly for teacher input at this point, is that the grassroots nature of our discovery of Eureka Math is fairly remarkable. It was Valley View teachers who identified this program looking for solutions that benefited their children. And it's from there that we were able at the district level to formally put in place a testing and a field testing and a pilot program to really evaluate the program on a broader level. So I want to step aside quickly. We have 2 teachers, and then we'll hear from several other staff members at the conclusion of the presentation. First is Rachel Delamorte. She's a 5th grade teacher at Jamie McGee. And Michelle Philippides, who is a 2nd grade teacher at Irene King. Both are teachers who would fall into this category, people who have identified independently the Eureka Math program, and I thought it was important for the board and the public to hear their experiences with it.
Thank you, Adam. Good evening. As Adam mentioned, my name is Rachel Delamorte. I teach 5th grade at Jamie McGee, and I also have 2 middle school students at Jane Addams, which I mentioned because as a 5th grade teacher, I do also have some insight and knowledge of what the expectations are for the kids as they move into middle school. And again, as Adam mentioned, I went to a math training with Adam and we just had a lot of conversations. And in that conversation, we talked a little bit about Eureka. So after being introduced to the materials, I decided to start using the lessons with my 5th grade class. I'm not officially piloting the program, but when I looked over the lessons, I truly thought it would be a disservice to my students if I didn't use those materials now that I knew that they were out there. So Adam helped me get kind of connected with the materials that I would need to do that. I really liked the approach of teaching operations like adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing with a foundation of place value understanding. By doing so, students have a deep understanding of how to perform these operations in a variety of ways and in a variety of situations. So many of my students have just now come to understand why they have been following the steps in standard algorithms they've been doing since 2nd grade because of the approach in Eureka lessons. So they've been doing some subtraction and crossing numbers out and putting numbers on top, and they didn't really always understand why they were doing that. And because of the way Eureka presents these lessons, they are having light bulb moments and really coming to understand why. And I think parents will be pleased because we're not abandoning standard algorithms that parents are comfortable with and know how to help their children with. It's doing a side-by-side of the standard algorithms with place value understanding. For example, you'll have a long division problem written out in the traditional way that we're all familiar with. And next to that, a place value chart. And it really shows you how when you bring down the 3 or when you subtract, why you're doing that, what's happening with your numbers as it relates to place value, that you're actually doing those steps in those standard algorithms. So it's not abandoning those, it's really, they're working side by side for deep understanding of these concepts. My 5th graders are using accurate math vocabulary, again, reflecting a true understanding of the meaning and applications. It's very exciting to listen to them in the classroom. One of the features that my kids love most of all is the sprint that comes at the beginning of many of the lessons. The sprint is like an athletic math event. The sprints are fluency activities that target prerequisite skills to the concepts being covered in the lessons. The teacher treats the sprints like a race. You actually go through on your mark, get set, sprint as part of the script. But it's a race that a student has competing against him or herself, which is a great opportunity for students to self-assess. The students keep self-assessment notebooks that they record their results on the sprints, what areas they struggled with, and then they can set goals for themselves. So just that one activity is a great self-assessment and goal-setting opportunity for the kids that are already built into many of the lessons. So there's an A sprint and a B sprint, and in between, the students do an exercise like jumping jacks while skip counting or some other, there's a math component tied in with the exercise. And every last student is engaged in these sprint lessons. From the top achievers to some kids that struggle, they're all fully engaged in these sprints. They actually cheer out loud when I say we have a sprint to start a lesson, which again is very exciting. I've been teaching 5th grade for 15 years, and this program has hands down given me what I need as a teacher to best help students arrive at a true understanding of the math concepts, and with much better retention in order to apply and transfer well beyond this 5th grade year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Philippides. I teach 2nd grade at Irene King. I discovered Eureka Math last year. I just happened to be in line behind a coworker who was making copies, and I was kind of checking it out, and I said, ooh, I kind of like what I see here. So I went back to my room and Googled it, and the things that I saw with Eureka Math were amazing. For the last several years, we have been trained K2 by Angela Andrews, and she has brought a wealth of knowledge about math and math understanding and what the kids really need to do to understand math. And so every opportunity I've had with after-school trainings, the ones that are required and the ones that are voluntary, I've been there hanging on every word that she says. So when I looked at Eureka Math and saw that the things that she had taught us were being incorporated into this program, it was organized, it was easy to follow, best practices, turn and talk to your friend, the kind of things that we have been learning and know that kids need to be doing with each other is all part of Eureka Math. So even though 2nd grade isn't part of this adoption, I have been using it, loving it. I really see my kids understanding math and not just going through the steps, but really understanding the place value that they need to understand and the things they need to know so that when they get to those higher level math, they know what they're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can go to the next slide. I think that the teacher's voice is definitely the most important piece. There are a lot of details that I'm going to go through, not overly quickly, but briefly. And of course, if anyone has any questions now or in the future, I'd be happy to address those. We did have an official pilot this year of third grade classrooms at every school. The teachers designed that pilot and discussed how they would like to test out the Eureka Math materials in the first semester. And the group of pilot teachers collectively recommended that we switch in grades 3, 4, and 5 from the McGraw-Hill My Math program to the Eureka Math program. And as well, we've had significant informal field testing similar to what these two teachers just described, anecdotally how it's been really positive in their classrooms. From a statistical standpoint, the evidence is clear. In our pilot classrooms, on average, and this is approximately, 17% more students met their growth goal from the fall to the winter on our measure of academic progress, or MAP assessment. So what that means is in the non-pilot classrooms, comparing apples to apples, about half of the kids were meeting their growth goals by this winter that we set in the fall. And in the pilot classrooms that used Eureka Math significantly enough that it would have impacted the students' learning distinctly from the other classrooms, over 2/3 of the students in those classrooms met their growth goals. So that was exciting beyond, the reports validating the program, the fact that it's built from the ground up by teachers and from a grassroots movement of our staff. We're actually seeing a really statistically significant difference in student learning with kids using the program. There's also several benefits for staff. The program is both online and as a paper teacher manual, which kind of brings us into a nice 21st century opportunity to start embedding more technology usage in our teaching practices, modeling those things for students, while also providing the traditional paper teacher manuals that many staff are very comfortable with. We've talked about the PARCC assessment this evening. In the elementary grades 3, 4, and 5, the PARCC assessment has tasks that are very distinct from existing curriculum programs. And one of the great strengths with Eureka Math is that on a daily basis, students are performing tasks, both in practice and in homework and on the tests, that align directly with the type of tasks they'll see on the PARCC assessment. So there's no more stopping math 2 weeks before the PARCC and saying, let's practice getting ready for the PARCC assessment. That just is happening on a daily, hourly basis in math. Teachers also will have access to content from kindergarten through 7th grade, every lesson, every test, not just those at their grade level. And it's a unique strength of this program that they can actually identify in a 3rd grade classroom. If a student isn't getting a certain concept, the program identifies prior 1st and 2nd grade lessons that the student probably needs to be buttressed with, and the teachers can actually go back and access those lessons, which is a unique feature. The lesson-specific video library in this program is remarkable. One of the things in the illicit video, and I promise you it did say all these things in the video that we didn't play, was that there's an immense video library that acts both to prepare teachers to deliver the lessons, but also it's professionally developing our staff even further as they teach the program. And then finally, class discussion in math and students justifying their reasoning and discussing with their peers is a Common Core standard and has been, obviously, since Valley View adopted Common Core several years ago. And this program specifically in every lesson outlines a script for teachers to guide a classroom discussion specific to the content of that day's lesson. The benefits for parents with this program are exciting. It's unprecedented access to nearly the entire program for free. So for our educators, this is not free, and we'll get to the cost in a minute. However, for anyone in the community, any parents, grandparents, guardians, you can sign up for a free account that gives you access to PDF files of every piece of the curriculum, the teacher manuals, the assessments, the student practice pages, which is something that has never been available in any previous curriculum program in elementary school. There is also significantly well-developed information sheets, and Amanda will pull that up here, and the link is in the presentation. Each unit in the program has this 2-page sheet specifically written for parents with examples of student work, vocabulary that's going to be used in that unit, why it relates to the Common Core standards. And what this allows us to do is not just have parents helping kids at home with math. Where we're at with math in elementary school is a crossroads where we must continue to communicate the differences in elementary school math that are present in the Common Core standards. And that is a multi-year process, and an enormous side benefit of Eureka Math is that it provides that communication multiple 6-7 times a year in this format. And these are things that teachers can send home, they can put on their website, we can send it through the district's ParentLink app. And so the parent can get a message through the ParentLink app saying your third grader or your fourth grader in the next unit over the next several weeks will be learning this. And here's 2 pages that explain how it's going to look in advance. This is, I wanted to include the information about how it benefits students, really specifically in terms of the nuts and bolts of the math instruction, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about this. I think the greatest point was made here by Mrs. Delamorte a moment ago, that the non-standard strategies, so what parents are seeing coming home that people have termed new math or Common Core math, are taught side by side with why they inform students learning the traditional algorithms, so long division or borrowing and carrying, which means kids actually make that connection on a daily basis with lasting mastery of those ideas. So when they're working with really complex numbers after they leave elementary school, they have the foundational concepts and how those relate to those algorithms. Whereas that is something that many districts, not even just in Illinois, nationally have struggled with, how to mix those 2 focuses of math instruction. So the associated cost for the program, there is a one-time cost, the second star here, for printed teacher materials, which is sort of the traditional teacher manual. It's approximately $25,000 because the company, with their renewed notoriety, you can imagine the increase in demand for their product. And so it's allowed them to redo a lot of the formatting of some of the teacher materials. So that's an approximate cost, but obviously we would buy that one time and not have to replace those annually. The annual costs are for online teacher accounts, which supplement the book that teachers would get. We negotiated a 20% discount on that for our teachers, and our quote comes to $28,800, and that would be annually. And then we are proposing to print student materials through the district print shop. The most recent quote we got for buying student books from the publishing company that goes with the program was over $140,000 annually, which obviously is unrealistic for 3 grades of math instruction, in my opinion. Our print shop can produce this as a soft cost or in-house cost for under $46,000 approximately per year. And finally, I'd like to ask several more teachers to come up and introduce themselves, to just echo the point that not only was this a grassroots program, but it's a program that is significantly supported by staff due to what it can do for student learning.
Good evening, Board of Education, Senior Leadership, and Community. My name is Jen Azure. I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Independence Elementary School. I've had the pleasure of piloting Eureka Math in my class for 2 modules now, and I plan to utilize it through the end of the year. We have worked through Module 3, which is multiplication and division, and we're wrapping up Module 5 right now, which is fractions on a number line. I'd like to touch on a few things with you today: the structure of the Eureka lesson, the navigation of the online resources, and my class's reaction to Eureka. The structure of a Eureka lesson is of very high quality. The lessons I've worked on are highly aligned to Common Core standards. In fact, Education Weekly just published an article commenting on Eureka Math. Comparative to the digital and print mathematics materials by widely used publishers, they said in all, just one curriculum series stood out from the pack. Eureka Math was found to be aligned to the Common Core standards at all grade levels reviewed. Eureka does have scripted lessons, which are wonderful tools for new teachers, guest teachers, and seasoned teachers as well. Personally, I do review the script of each lesson in preparation of teaching it, but I don't read directly from the script. That's not how I teach. The script is a great guide, even for someone who has been teaching for years. My kids really also enjoy the sprints, like Ms. Delamorte spoke of earlier. They're fast-paced, they're fun, and they give kids immediate feedback on achievement. The student debrief part of the lesson is another powerful component of the lesson. This portion of the lesson provides the teacher with many ideas and opportunities for quality classroom discussions to wrap up the lessons. And then these discussions make the math real for kids. One of the things I struggled with growing up was why does this matter to me? And it makes it real for them. They are the ones coming up with the ideas. Eureka has crafted quality lessons, which have served as wonderful tools for all teachers preparing to deliver engaging and rigorous mathematics lessons, which are highly aligned to Common Core. The navigation of the Great Minds website is intuitive, unlike some of our other resources. There is a web app which seems to be the yellow brick road to all things Eureka. Each of the grades is laid out with an easy-to-view year overview, which links to the modules, which link to individual lessons, which have the script, the PDFs, and the availability to download all files for the lesson. Everything is housed in one easy-to-navigate app. I've not had any issues with the web-based resources, and I have enjoyed the support resources to share with parents, and so have they. It gives them a better understanding to what's going on in the classroom. Eureka's online resources have covered my needs to fully implement the curriculum in my classroom. I'd like to wrap up by sharing my kids' reactions to the use of the program to access the standards. We sometimes say in the classroom, no pain, no gain, in reference to Mathematical Practice 1. Eureka's rigorous, there's no doubt about that. It does require hard work and perseverance for the kids to work through their problems. Sometimes it's painful as the teacher to let them struggle through the work, to watch them discover the concepts on their own. However, there's nothing more rewarding than seeing the light bulbs go off and seeing the kids arrive at the solution to these rigorous problems. We do often, in my classroom, a feelings check, thumbs up, sideways, how you feeling about things. And the progression of feelings throughout the lesson is really neat to see how by the end of the lesson, most of them have their thumbs up. The kids struggle, they work hard, and they feel really good about persevering and getting to where they need to be. To finalize, I think that Eureka is a strong mathematics resource that I'm excited to see. I'll be using Eureka as my toolkit to teach mathematics with the knowledge that it is strongly aligned to Common Core, it's easy to navigate, and because my kids loved it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I say good evening. I'm Chanel Beckstrom. I am a 4-5 split challenge teacher, and I have actually been using Eureka since day one of the school year. When I was told I was a 4-5 split, my head was in a million places. How am I going to reach all these kids? And Eureka, as far as math goes, has given me the opportunity and the tools needed to reach all of my students. I thoroughly enjoy, probably my favorite part of Eureka is sitting and listening to my kids' math discussions. They're to the point that I don't even have to ask why anymore. They just tell me, well, this is because of this, this, or this. So I do feel like because of that, my kids have had such a greater understanding of math, and it's been phenomenal to see. And I do feel that this is having a challenge class. It's a much more rigorous curriculum that is meeting their needs. The positive as far as it goes for teachers, kind of to piggyback off of what was previously said, everything is laid out. It is not something that I'm afraid to leave for a guest teacher, because if they don't know what to do, they can literally read the script verbatim. And it's tied to Common Core, which is fantastic, and I do feel like it's giving my kids the exposure to the questions they're about to see on Park in the next couple days. My students, again, I have not been asked once this year, well, why are we doing this? Everything is tied into real-world applications, and I like that it gives the kids multiple strategies to solve different problems. The benefits for Challenge is being able to have access to kindergarten through 7th grade is that I have a wide range of abilities in my classroom as far as high achievement goes, so I can pull in the higher level skills if needed. and when needed. And it creates critical thinking within my kids. And the math discussions, well, how are we going to solve this problem? This is the problem that gives you. What are we going to do to get there? And they've really taken ownership piece of that, and it's been phenomenal to watch. I was astonished at my math growth because I've been piloting this since the fall. My kids grew tremendously. I think one of my biggest growths was 24 points, which was phenomenal. And I've really enjoyed liking the program. My kids seem to enjoy it, and they're becoming much more confident with math. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So to wrap up, I just wanted to thank all the staff who was here this evening. I'd also like to thank all of the teachers who participated in the third grade pilot testing, who put in a significant amount of additional effort above and beyond their daily workload in order to get us the evidence necessary to bring this program to the board and to recommend it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions now or, of course, going forward.
I have a question, and so we'll get to your question too.
Yeah.
Oh, sir,
Hang on.
sir. This is
We'll let,
This is
after he's asked his, could you step up to the podium and?
it's a little out of the normal, but we'll do it.
We'll get there.
We'll get it. The question I had was, I've been thinking about this, and obviously I was excited when the article came out. I was one of many, evidently, who sent it to you. But the question I had initially was why 3-4 and not K-1-2? And then when I looked at this report more in depth, I really asked that question because our current curriculum is actually aligned. The only place it's aligned is 4-5. So, but it's not aligned K-1-2. So why didn't we go K-1-2 before we went 3-4-5?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So what Vice President Gugis is referring to is in that Ed Reports article, the existing MyMath program did get acceptable ratings in 4th and 5th grade. In looking deeper at the comparison of how they rated Eureka Math at 3-4-5 compared to MyMath, I'd call it sort of like a soft acceptable for MyMath versus like a ringing endorsement of Eureka Math. So there was definitely a difference. However, the question of why not K through 2, there's two reasons. The first is our professional development efforts have been significantly focused on the most foundational years in K through 2 teachers. And that's not to say 3rd through 5th grade teachers haven't gotten significant professional development in Common Core, but kindergarten through 2nd grade is where we've built enormous staff capacity to move outside of the MyMath program with best practice strategies. And we have assessments in place that allow them to identify unique student gaps in understanding with tasks that actually align directly to those gaps. So we actually have a fairly supplemental amount of material where teachers can move away from MyMath at the K2 level. The immediate concern, if I can call it that, was at the 3-4-5 level. I did not feel, and teachers certainly did not feel, that our curriculum or the pacing of our curriculum, the order it was taught in, was acceptable or conducive to student learning. And so we identified that as priority 1A. And the long-term plan would be to continue what we've learned in K2, but to back whether it's this resource or another resource down so we're vertically aligned consistently. Whereas in K2, we have a high confidence that the correct strategies are being taught to students right now.
Then how does this intersect with the middle school math?
So in terms of vertically aligning this, in the middle school, and I don't want to speak specifically, given that it's outside of my range and I'm not exactly positive of how each program is used depending on interventions and things, but I know in 7th grade, Eureka Math is actually used at the middle school level. And it also is significantly more rigorous. One of the big problems we have right now bridging 5th to 6th grade in the middle school is that our curriculum in elementary school, while difficult, it does not meet the level of rigor necessary for kids to be successful consistently when they leave elementary school. And so the goal in vertically aligning with Eureka Math would be that if a student can master 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade Eureka Math, they are definitely ready for regular and or honors classes at the 6th grade level.
So what would be the plan then to kind of overcome the obstacle between 5 and 6?
Well, essentially this is the plan. It's something we've kind of identified that there is a gap in the rigor of our elementary programs in building consistent foundational knowledge that helps kids perform the tasks in the upper grades when they get to middle and high. And so Eureka Math is sort of an answer to that question of how we get
would
those foundations.
Would it be put in 6th grade then? Or am I
Assistant Superintendent
Yeah, I can speak to that. So a lot of the work that our middle school teams have already been engaged in, they've had to have a grassroots effort themselves. They are not reliant on just a resource like My Math or like that would come from a textbook publisher. So there's actually alignment in terms of the types of tasks and the shifts that we're making to support the teachers. They just have been engaged a little bit longer in the process of kind of creating those to supplement. But that's a conversation that we are having in terms of ensuring that alignment. And then what Adam and team have identified is filling some of those gaps that we had identified at middle school and we're already addressing, but we are definitely aware of that alignment piece. And if we determine that that resource is necessary there, we would go through the same process of involving teachers in looking through that process.
The other thing, just to add to that, when it comes to preparing students for middle school, obviously our middle school and high school teachers are content area experts, whereas our elementary teachers are generalists, and they are expert in their skills. But Eureka Math really is a program that does raise the level of expertise in teaching Common Core math for our teachers. So I think it would help even that playing field.
Yeah, and we're in a position that most districts have been in since every textbook publisher known to man slapped a label on their textbook and said Common Core aligned. And when we last adopted a resource at middle school, we did the same type of review, and it was really kind of the best option that we had at the time. We knew it wasn't perfect. Director of Math, Christy Vay, would be the first one to tell you the gaps that she had identified and that the teachers had identified. But it was a resource, and it is just that. It's a resource. It's not the only thing that our teachers are using. And so it definitely is something that we continue to review, and the committees of teachers that are hard at work, just like our elementary teams, are very much aware, and they're supplementing and filling the gaps.
Is that it? Thank you. Sir, you had a question? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Herder, too, on the baby. Thank you, ladies, for coming. Appreciate your hard work on this.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Next up.
Information report 14.2 is bringing forth information regarding our elementary gifted and academically talented program and the committee's recommendation to strengthen the existing program. I would like to thank the parents for their involvement and for their comments, and most definitely you will hear information tonight to address the concerns that our two parents previously raised at the podium, and we definitely are happy you're part of the conversation. Elizabeth Martinez is our Executive Director of Pre-K 5 and has been working closely with an external consultant, Mrs. Susan Chocardi, and our committee. So we have another lineup of dedicated elementary teachers with us this evening. They're going to share with you a brief overview of the audit process that we've been engaged in with our consultant, of the committee work that we've been engaged in, as well as the recommendation that we are bringing forward to the board for your information.
Thank you, Ms. Kinder. Good evening. Happy spring. Dr. Mitchum, President Quigley, Vice President Guges, members of the board, and our community. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Today, we have some teachers, administrators here to share our plan and our proposal. Our proposal is posted on board docs. It's a very comprehensive review, and today we're going to go through each different piece of the plan, and hopefully we'll be able to address some of the concerns that were brought forward. As Mr. Vice President Guges mentioned, this is an information report. We are prepared to navigate this in the best way that meets the needs of our community. And we've looked at pieces of data. We've kind of have a very comprehensive plan, but we also respect your guidance in how we would proceed to basically look at the needs of our gifted and talented learners as well as our high achieving students in the district. So I'd like to introduce our teachers that are here today and our parents. And I want to thank everyone that was on our committee because we had a lot of committee support. It also great feedback from teachers and parents and administrators and We tried to really look at all the stakeholders to determine what the needs are in the district and try to find the best way that we can support our students. So we have Susan Ball will be our first speaker, and then we have Chanel Beckstrom, then Elaine Meldrum, Cindy Abel, and those are all challenge teachers. And actually Cindy Abel was not on the committee, but she is here today to speak about the curriculum for us. Then we have Mithra Zaucha and Ellen Crazen, which are parent representatives. We also have Allison Ewald, principal of R.C. Hill, Laura Lucas, who is principal of Sauk, and we also have all of the elementary curriculum directors here present, so if there are any additional questions, we're prepared to answer any questions. We just want to thank you in advance for your support. We know that many districts throughout the state have looked at our gifted and talented programs. This is not a funded or a required program from the state. And so we are very thankful that school board, senior leadership, Dr. Mitchum have made this a priority and have given us this opportunity to look really in-depthly at our current programs and see how we could shift and make our program meet the needs of more students and more appropriately. So you'll learn a little bit more from our teachers and parents. So thank you.
Thank you.
Susan?
Good evening. As Elizabeth just mentioned, my name is Susan Ball, and I teach 5th grade challenge at Jonas Salk Elementary. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about the expansion of the challenge program. This is the first time since 1979 when Valley View offered gifted instruction in all buildings that a formal audit of the program has been conducted with the intention of serving a greater number of students. Under Dr. Mitchum's leadership, a gifted task force led by an outside consultant was formed during the 2012-2013 school year. This committee, consisting of key stakeholders, parents, teachers, and administrators, met formally to review gifted instruction practices at the elementary level. The committee evaluated gifted and talented programs currently in place in Woodridge District 68, Naperville District 203, and Indian Prairie District 204 due to the fact that they are comparable to Valley View School District in size and demographic. Based upon this investigation, which has been going on for over a year, the following proposal was developed.
Once again, I'm Chanel Beckstrom, 4-5 challenge teacher at Jonas Salk. Our model that we're have put together for you is a self-contained model for 3 through 5 for our truly gifted population. That would be the top 5% of the class, as well as a push and pull out model for English, language arts, or math for those high achieving students or the potentially gifted students, especially in K through 2. With that, it would be an incremental rollout starting with 2nd grade push in, pull out, and that push in, pull out would be by the classroom teacher and a gifted teacher as well. And there would be professional development for both the classroom teacher and the gifted teacher to make sure that we are reaching all of our student body. The intention of this is to support a greater population of our high achieving students.
My name is Elaine Meldrum, and I'm a 5th grade teacher at R.C. Hill. And what I'm going to report on tonight is the findings we had for identification. First, we felt that we were not identifying all the students that were gifted or could belong in our program. We also felt that some students we identified at a young age did not do as well as they progressed through the program. We looked at what experts said about identification. One thing they said is that we should have at least 3 identification instruments. We looked at our identification when we were only using 2, the COGAT and the MAP test. We now are going to try to use the Naglieri nonverbal ability test. The reason we wanted this test is because it's not culturally biased. It also helps finding children who have reasoning and general problem solving, and it also is good for children who English is not their primary language. We then looked at two scales because we felt that sometimes in a classroom, because of students' diverse background, we do not identify them. We wanted to use the scale for identifying gifted students, which is called SIGS, and this is used to identify children in 7 areas: general intelligence, language arts, math, science, social studies, creativity, and leadership. We also thought about using the Kingor Observation Inventory that is for children in kindergarten through 2nd grade to help us identify younger children. I know there has been great concern about 2nd grade gifted. What we were going to do is observe them for the first semester, and then we aren't just going to leave them sit there. We do have specialists that are going to be in the school, and what they will do is they will work with the teachers and will work with these students until we start the Excel program. We hope that this would be a more authentic identification, and the bottom line is that we do find those children that we have been missing in the past. We also thought we would have a Gates Advisory Committee. This would be a committee that would help with identification. It wouldn't just be like on one person's shoulder. And we thought we would put a variety of people on this committee. We thought there would be 3 teachers, 2 gifted specialists, and 1 general education teacher, 2 building administrators, 1 student service administrator, 1 data and assessment representative, and 1 senior leadership administrator or designee. We hope now, using this, that we will find those students that we haven't found in the past. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Abel, and I currently teach 4th grade challenge at R.C. Hill. In the past, we have been accelerating our gifted students in reading and in math. However, as teachers, we found that this did not always meet the needs. So we came to our administrators, the board, and we came to senior leadership requesting assistance building the curriculum. During that time, thanks to the support by senior leadership, Dr. Mitchum, and the board, our hope has been answered. We have been beginning in the 2013-14 school year, we began looking at new curriculum for our challenge students. Not just accelerated curriculum, but curriculum that goes deeper and is more complex. We've been using, since the end of last year, the College of William and Mary curriculum for gifted and talented students, specifically designed for those students we teach, Michael Clayton poetry, junior grade books, benchmark literacy, accelerated 1 year. Those are just a few of the changes that have been made. In addition, for the math program, as you have heard tonight, we have been using Eureka Math. I won't go into that. Obviously, we've seen enough of that. And I must say, I really like it. That was a sidebar. But, and with all of those new changes, we've also had to have professional development to teach us so that we can teach our students. We've had professional development on the Socratic method, poetry, William and Mary curriculum, as well as differentiation within the regular ed classroom. However, there is still a need for professional development. We are off to a great start, but we are asking for continued professional development. We need to develop units for our science and social studies curriculum at this time. Also, as we expand servicing more Valley View children, we need professional development for regular ed teachers, administration, and parents, as we provide services for this increasing number of our higher achieving students, those that have not been identified at this time. Not only do we need to increase the professional development for ourselves, but for all service providers who work with them. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mithra Zaucha. I'm a parent of 3 children in the Challenge program. There have been many things proposed before you, from professional development to the committee review, screenings and identification of students, evaluation of the program. And in the past, there was a coordinator of gifted services for the district. And so the committee would like to propose that a position be developed to lead all of these facets for the district. In addition, not only would a reinstated district coordinator help the transition, the implementation, and the continuation of the program, but also be the liaison between the district and parents. I would have to attest that many parents have questions, comments, and concerns about the gifted program, which I'm sure will go up exponentially, especially if there is a change in programming. So having a point person employed by the district would help ensure the success of this program.
Good evening, I'm Ellen Crayson. I'm a parent of a 3rd and 4th grader in the Challenge program at RC Hill School, and I also have a 1st grader at Pioneer who has just been tested for the Challenge program. As a parent, I've experienced the changes in the curriculum in the Challenge classrooms that have been discussed both by Mrs. Abel and by Mr. Herder earlier, and I've been able to see that those recommendations, which we discussed as a committee beforehand and helped bring to the table, have really improved the learning in the classroom. My kids are getting a much deeper, in-depth experience in their learning, and I really thank you for supporting that because it's been great for them. I've also started and been involved with a group on Facebook, an informal group of challenged parents, where we can have a place to connect with each other, to discuss issues that are common to gifted parenting and just parenting issues in general, and then more specifically, district issues. Gifted children present some unique challenges, both social, emotional, academic, and otherwise. And it's nice to have some support in that area, especially for parents who may be navigating it for the first time. One of the recommendations of this committee is to develop and support a parent-led program, almost a PTO sort of unit, that would support specifically the parents of our gifted students. It would help educate them, it would help inform them, it would help show them the opportunities that are available to them, and it would help connect them to other people that are going through the same thing that they would do. This would be, again, parent-led, but with support from the district as needed for resources, mainly, advice and that sort of thing. Along with that, we'd also like to improve the accessibility to information for parents. Right now, I know that when my first student was going to the Challenge program, there is no information about the Challenge program on the website or anywhere available, so I was very unsure of what to expect, unsure if that was the right decision to make, unsure if I should send at that point, what I thought was a tiny little child off to a different school in a different city. So we'd like to improve that accessibility to information by improving the district's website resources on the program, however it ends up being structured. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Yes.
Well, one, I want to thank you all for being here tonight, and for members of the committee. If I remember right, it's probably almost been 2 years since we first sat down, and I remember that meeting upstairs. And what I would say is, I want to thank you all so much for your hard work. I happen to have had students in 2 of the teachers' class, and they have benefited greatly. Thank you, Mrs. Abel and Mrs. Meldrum. And a quick story about Mrs. Meldrum. Elementary school, I almost forget what time it starts because I think it starts at 9:05, but Mrs. Meldrum is in her classroom every day around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and so is my kid with her. So I definitely appreciate that. And I want to thank the parents that were here, because in a large part, being a member of that Facebook group of gifted parents, you guys have acted as the district coordinator and really been the explanation to parents. And thank you for taking on that role. The Challenge program is something else. And why it's something else is when I first got on board 6 years ago, we were fighting every year to not eliminate it. I was being told the cost to bus students there was too expensive. So we got past that. We got a new administration who believed in the program, and we were kind of in a status quo. And then the idea became, let's expand the program, let's get more children in it. I think what happened in that process was we realized that the challenge program, if we're honest, is not really, as it sits now, a gifted program. It's accelerated, but it's not gifted. And so the idea with expansion was, should we have a test or a bar that we're setting that supposedly measures gifted when the curriculum wasn't truly gifted? So we expanded it, and then the conversation was, how do we make this better and support the needs of more students? Because we knew there were students at their home school that weren't getting that support. So that's how this started, and this is where we are now with that. I am struggling with the loss of second grade, like those parents, because myself, some other board members, Dr. Mitchum, we've all had kids that have gone through this program and benefited from second grade, and I hear the concerns. So I do struggle with that concept, and I know that I've asked lots of questions about that and you've answered that, but it's still a heavy concern. Obviously not just for me, but you've heard from some parents out there. So I think we really need some more conversation from you guys tonight about why that's the best move.
Well, the way that we see it is that we wouldn't discontinue support for our second grade. It's a shift of supports. So what we would do is the first semester, it would be looking at some of where Elaine mentioned some of those observation protocols, some of the additional data. That would be digging deeper into the students to make sure that we look at their specific needs and we support the teachers with professional development as well as curriculum. So it's not that they wouldn't get support first semester, but by second semester we would have all children, evaluated. We'll know exactly where they are. We'll have plenty of data to look at that to be able to extend for those students. But as I stated previously, we are prepared to go in any direction of the board. Mm-hmm. We could have a hybrid aspect. I mean, the proposal of the board did say, looking at second grade, there were a couple different factors for that. When we benchmarked other districts, very, very few school districts have supports for gifted and talented students in the second grade. It's more of cultivating potential talent, usually at second grade.
So why is that? Why is second grade not the start point for gifted? I see Mrs. Meldrum nodding her head. Why?
Well,
I know she's kind of an expert.
Mrs. Meldrum, yes, I'm sure she could speak to that, to the research that supports the developmental appropriateness. Mrs. Meldrum actually used to be our district gifted coordinator. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
So if you wanted to offer some comments, I know the committee did look at the research in terms of the developmental appropriateness and what kind of happens at that age when, is a self-contained model the best approach with that early identification. Does Ms. Meldrum or any of the committee members want to speak to that?
Well, I believe that the reason many districts don't have a second grade program is because a child that had an enriched background, like going to maybe a good preschool or parents that read to them, a lot of times they look more gifted than as they progress in the program. Because if you have a child that's coming in reading, you naturally think, well, that child must be gifted. When really, maybe they had a mother that read to them, maybe they had a special preschool. I always call it the preschool syndrome, because as they progress, their problem solving and that doesn't progress with them, and their classmates start catching up with them. Because it's so expensive to really find that second grade gifted child, you usually have to do an individual IQ test and that. There's a lot of time, and that's why a lot of districts don't identify children at that second grade level. I know in our committee we have spoke a lot about it, and we've talked about trying to identify the students so they will do well in the program for the rest of their time that they're in the program. And we are trying to give them support in second grade by providing the specialist. It's not quite self-contained, but we aren't just leaving them there by themselves. We're trying to, and also by observing children through second grade, when we've sort of got this pool of children that we really do believe should be in the gifted program, we can observe them more and not have some of the, I don't know if you want to call them errors, but identify students that maybe would have profited someplace else.
Okay. So maybe that kind of answers the question, but it kind of doesn't. I'm confused on why. Okay, we do this a lot in our district, not just with gifted. We get children and we know where they are at in the spring, right? And then they come to the fall, and then we spend the first couple of weeks of school reevaluating them. We knew where they were in the spring. I don't know why we're reevaluating them again, but we do it. Drives me crazy, but we do it. So I guess in this, what I'm hearing, if I'm going to go and, my yes vote or no vote, if I'm going to go with this, then what I'm hearing is we're going to evaluate these children now in first grade, and then we're going to evaluate them again.
We're going
in
to watch
second grade?
them. This has been done in many different places where we have this pool and we're sort of nurturing them, trying to nurture them more so that when they do go in the program, they'll fit better. Because as I said, sometimes those other things that have happened made them look more gifted. But if you can observe them during the first semester, but we're not completely leaving them there and not doing anything with them. We are planning to have those gifted specialists in the school to work with these students, not only work with the students, but I believe we were clustering. Mm-hmm. We are clustering, and with the cluster, the specialist would go in and tell the teacher what to do. Maybe if they're exceptional, maybe pull them out and work with them. It's more individualized than if they're in a self-contained classroom.
And the core curriculum, it's an area we've also looked at, and we've looked at our data of our highest achieving primary learners and the growth that they are experiencing in the gen ed classroom with our gen ed teachers is significant. And that's not a trend that we used to see in our data. And now I feel like that's a huge change that we're seeing. And that comes through the grouping and the differentiation that's done in the classroom. That comes from what the teams of teachers are doing through flexibly grouping math, for example, or through their guided reading groups. And so if our students who are the highest achievers in grades 1 and 2 weren't growing, I would have reservations on the committee's recommendation, but I can tell you that we are growing those students and we are supporting those students very appropriately, and then we can only further enrich and enhance that, like Mrs. Meldrum spoke to, with the addition of pull in or push out and through additional professional development, which many of the members spoke of, for the teachers. So that's an added component.
I'd like one question too. I think, is it Ellen, the parent? Yeah, you had said that you have a first grader, correct? And then you had a third and fourth, or fourth and fifth. It's okay.
Sorry.
Just with the concerns that, have been expressed about second grade. How do you feel with having two students that have gone all the way through, and when did those students enter, and how do you feel with the change for your child going to second grade?
I think I can speak to this pretty well because my children, while they all came from the same two people, are three very different types of children. My first child, who's in fourth grade now, who came into the gifted program in second grade, is a very textbook gifted. She was reading before she got to kindergarten. She does very well on a pen and paper test. She's very lingual. She speaks very well. She's high functioning. Her math skills are not shabby either. But she would be what you would say, look at those early learners and say, wow, that's a really gifted student. That's a very good learner. My second child is kind of the opposite, where she has these big ideas. Her higher order functioning skills, her synthesis, her evaluation of things is very in-depth, and it blows me away sometimes, but she is not a pen and paper girl. She will sit down. When she took the COGAT, she actually fell a little bit short from making the challenge program. So I went to bat for her at that point and said, she's not getting her needs met in the classroom as it was, because she was not, and she was crumbling because she was not. And she started misbehaving because she was bored. And so I went to several people and just said, she's not having her needs met. She's going to hate school. I don't want to see that happen to someone who has such great potential. And so she went into the challenge program through that. She did the WISC test and qualified under the WISC test. So with that being said, my third child is very laid back, but then he is also an early reader, very bright. I'm a little biased. I'm his parent. I think he's great. But as I was also a special education teacher, and I teach preschool right now, and I do see that, while I have provided an enriching environment for them, they have taken that enriching environment and taken off with it. I think that if this program is implemented as suggested and we have the supports in place at the school, I wouldn't have had to fight for my second daughter. I would have been happy with her staying there. We built our house 2 blocks away from our school so that I could be there, volunteer in the classrooms, be right there with my children learning along the way. And then I had to make the decision to send them to Romeoville, which is not a bad place, but is much farther away than 2 blocks. I can't just walk over and volunteer in their classroom. I have to take a 10-minute, 15-minute drive. I have to cut time out to do that. So that was a really hard decision to make. So if there had been more support and they could have gotten more individualized support at their home school, I would have loved that. And if my child does qualify for the program, I would be happy either way, with him staying at his home school because I think Pioneer is a fantastic school and I love the staff there, or with him going to R.C. Hill, which I also adore and love the staff there and I think is a great program. I think everything's a transition. We can't do it suddenly. Change is scary. It's scary for us too. We don't know how this is going to play out. We don't know that all these things will go textbook, but ideally, the best education for children is to make it as individualized to the child as it can be. And I know that from teaching special ed. We have our IEPs. I've always said I wish that every kid in the district could have an IEP so that each teacher could know how that child best learns and what their best modalities are and what their strengths are and what supports help them the most. This program, the way that we've envisioned it, will set up more of those supports for those children, make it more individualized, and better serve our students. So that's why I'm in support of it.
And I'm for being in all the schools because I think that is where it needs to be. But with your third child, first grade into second grade, what's just the feeling that it will be different tracking in this challenge program for your third child because that child will be in the observation, it'll be in the new kind of format.
Right, and I think one of the things that has been confusing up here, I have just grabbed my thing actually to look back through it and I didn't get a chance to, but I believe one of the confusions is that we did a Naglieri test this year for the first graders, because that's what we have been doing, is testing the first graders. I believe that what we proposed was for that to happen at the beginning of second grade year. So they wouldn't be being tested twice. They would be evaluated on that Naglieri in second grade when those skills are more set for them. So it wouldn't be the evaluating and then reevaluating. It would be one evaluation, it just would be at a later date.
So overall, you are all okay with the new format for your own family and your own child?
For my own child, yes. I mean, I think that if there are services in place for him at the school, he's going to get his needs met there or at the R.C. Hill program.
I think you make a unique case because you have a child that, let's say, would qualify in our old program to go to our challenge program. And so what I think you're saying is that if this change goes through, what the committee is recommending, you are okay, you are happy with what the plan would be, even though it would be different for this child than it was for the other children.
Yeah, oh yeah. And that's something that I will obviously have to address at my home too, because my now first grader believes that, when you're in second grade, or when you're in first grade, as it happens in our family, when you're in first grade, you take the test, and then the next year you go to R.C. Hill. So he has told a few people, like, well, I took the test, so I'm going to go to R.C. Hill. And I'm like, no, buddy. Number one, taking the test does not mean that you're going to go there. But number two, it's okay to stay at Pioneer too. They're a great school as well. And like I said, they've got a fantastic staff over there. They really have good support as well. So that's obviously something that we'll have to address as our family if it does change. But I'm okay with that.
I know that she wants to say something, but I did want to just clarify. Looking at K through 2, that's really building on the foundational skills for the students. So we really want our students to have a very solid foundation, especially with Common Core, how each of the strands build off of each other. We just feel that there's a great investment, as all of you have supported us with that really kindergarten through third grade pipeline. Third grade is more reading to learn. And so looking at how those concepts, how the reading applies. And with looking at the assessments this year, I know Michael Lacasio is here as well, but we did look at our MAP scores, but we also did do the Naglieri so that we are prepared in whatever direction that you guide us. So if we go with the recommendation, we are prepared to do that. If you choose to continue the second grade classes, we are prepared to move on that. There are timelines. We have a pretty rigorous timeline that we want to keep in place. We want to make sure that notification and communication is out to the schools and the parents much earlier than has been done previously. So that's another reason why it seems a little confusing that we did it right now, but really we did that just to be prepared for whatever your recommendation was. I don't know, Michael, is there anything that you would like to share about that?
Question, if you don't mind. I think you guys did a phenomenal work putting this together. What's the risk of launching this recommendation by not launching the second grade group and by doing these across the district versus having a RC Hill being the center of this Excel program?
Well, I think that the committee, it was very clear that we did feel that a truly gifted and talented program for our top 5% is essential in our district, but then that offering for the high achieving. So when we look at what options are available, we just feel that this would give us a more comprehensive look of our students. We'd be able to meet the individual needs at the building, and then the risk to it would just, I don't see it as a risk. I see it as an expansion. And in my opinion, and with the expertise that has been a part of this committee and the research that has been in place as well as the data, I feel that this is really expanding and creating a much more authentic, gifted and talented program for our district. And it's something that was not given the attention maybe that it deserved in previous years. And I'm just thrilled that we have a very committed committee, as well as our staff and your support. So we just want to do what's best for our kids, and we will welcome any direction that we get. I know that
Mr.
you wanted to
Venegas,
speak.
if I may expand upon that. From my perspective, the risk is the risk that we faced for decades in the public education system. When the world is moving 100 miles an hour, we're moving 10 miles an hour. And the fact that this program has not been audited since 1979 speaks just to that point. And I would say that the reason why this program has not changed since 1979 is because of the risk with change. And as this board knows, we've made significant changes in this district at significant cost. We've expended a lot of capital in making some of the changes that we've made. So the risk is whether or not we will continue to be paralyzed as a result of the possible negative feedback as a result of change, or whether or not we will move forward, given that not just in Valley View, but across the country, we freeze when it comes to making significant changes for what serves the best interests of our kids, as indicated by this significant achievement gap that we've never been able to close, and yet have made no significant changes in the history of our system to actually do anything about it. And so I commend these challenge teachers, because I can remember particularly some of them who are squeakier than others, indicating to us that we haven't evaluated this program in many, many years, and that if we really do want to seize this initiative, we need to do this now, because they recognize that, really challenge was when you go into a second grade challenge, you're met with a third grade curriculum. Then after you've mastered that third grade curriculum, you basically are just in a grade level above the grade level that you should be in, but are we really challenging those kids? When we brought MAP in, we realized that we were leaving almost 400 kids out. And so we were with a dilemma. We were like, what are we going to do with these 400 kids that, based on the kids in the challenge, when you benchmark them against the kids who are not in the challenge, we got 400 kids out there that probably should be in the challenge program. We also recognize that are we really addressing the needs of our highest achieving and highest performing kids, that upper 3 to 5%, or were we not? I would suggest that we were not. Mm-hmm. And so with the changes being proposed, and again, I'm agnostic at this point as to whether or not we have it self-contained or whether or not it's in each building, because either way, I think we need to expand our offerings to those kids that we have kind of left in the gap that we should have been addressing. To me, that is the most significant risk involved, is that we'll be met with challenges and we'll have to make decisions no matter what decision we make in a district this size, there are always going to be people that are unhappy, and there are always going to be people that are happy. What we have to decide is whether or not we've done our due diligence, we've listened to our teachers, and we're making the decision based on the best interest of the kids, not the potential pressure that may be brought to bear as a result of a change that hasn't taken place since 1979.
I think we have some parents that have some questions.
Sir, you had a question?
Thank you.
I had
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
a comment.
Step up,
I
though,
wanted
would you?
to also.
You got to do it from up here, sir.
Yeah.
Wait your turn. Come.
I
stand
wanted
up
to
here.
just bring up some things that came up within the community, the committee. Some of the parental concerns also is that there's this current year, there have been expansions of the actual challenge second grade classes. There have been, there's now 2 classes at Jonas Salk and 2 as well in Hill. And that is as a result of the all-day kindergarten. Everyone has actually shifted with that kindergarten being all day. They're now the second graders that are in the challenge program. So everyone has grown. And so for what you were saying, that whether we're actually addressing the gifted may not necessarily be correct. And that's why we really discussed having a second tier, or that Project Excel, so we can reach all those kids that have actually grown and are in a higher percentage, but not still that 5 to 6% within the local student population. I did have that concern, a parent concern about, not having the second grade challenge program in that first half. My son was reading Harry Potter by kindergarten. I mean, we had him tested, he's 99%. So if he was going to be going into first grade, I would be concerned as well as a parent. However, as a committee, when we were talking about these gifted specialists, basically co-teachers coming in, giving this support within the classroom, that helped ease my mind as a parent, because if my son was in that second grade, even in the first semester, or first 2 quarters, he would get more of a personalized attention with this co-teacher, this gifted specialist coming into the classroom. So that's what helped to ease my mind as a parent.
Thank you. Sir.
Sir, step up. Okay. Please state your name, just for the record.
My name is David Chavoy. Distinguished members of the
You
board.
can raise the microphone up so you don't have to hump
It's
down.
quite an honor to be addressing the Valley View School District Executive Board this evening. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to my concerns I have regarding second grade challenge program. I come to you to speak to you from a unique perspective, maybe the only person in this room that was actually in second grade challenge, and now I have a first grader who has facing the possibility of not being allowed to go to second grade challenge. Back in 1980, blah, 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 in Mrs. Cross's class in Independence Elementary is where I'm from. My biggest concern is that if you get rid of all-day second grade challenge, my second graders' advanced educational needs are not going to be met, and I'm not going to idly sit by and let Valley View School District leave my child behind. I have a daughter who's in third grade challenge right now, and a son who is in first grade, who I'm hoping does well also. I think having the challenge program had been around for so long, it's not a stagnant thing. I think it makes us better than other schools that doesn't have it. If there's a consulting firm out there that says, well, Naperville only has it in third grade, but we have it in second, and we've always had it in second, I think that makes us better. I think that gives us a leg up on another school district, and I wanted to keep it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, one more.
Another speaker? Sure.
It's okay. Take your time.
And again, if staff is available to answer some of these questions individually, phone calls, emails, whatever. So don't feel like this is the only place you can address your concern. And also, this is the jumping off point. This is the first time we've seen some of this information, although this has been a long process, just so you understand that.
I just have a couple questions based on what I heard. Somebody had mentioned that the testing would be done in the fall, and so we wouldn't be double testing these kids. In the GATE document, it talks about doing the testing so that you figure out, I think it was in May, you determine who's going to be in these clustering classes, cluster them in the classes. So my question is, how are you going to cluster the students if you don't do the testing till the fall? Now my other question, or I guess this is kind of a question but kind of a statement, I think as a parent, I know I would be more comfortable with this option if there were specifics about how this specialist is, how many times a week is a specialist coming into the classroom. And like my oldest had an IEP for quite a few years, and it was written down, he's gonna get this many minutes, every week, and it was followed because you had to follow it because that's how his needs were met. So I think if it was presented and followed through that from the beginning of second grade, these students were going to be getting these services from the specialist, a certain amount of time, it would be perceived better. And I know, public perception, while you can't be paralyzed by it, you also have to, I would think, have to take it into consideration. These are our children. While all the teachers, I'm sure, love their students, these are, this is my child. And I just wanted to also say that the concern there, too, is when my son Caden entered second grade with Mrs. Workus, who was wonderful, and I'm very sad that she's retiring, she spent the first 2 weeks of the school year getting these kids to be a team and get adjusted to being at RC Hill and meeting each other and everything else. And then once they were adjusted, they took off running. The plan that I'm hearing, and maybe it's just my perception, it sounds like there's going to be all this time that is observation and vague about the specialist, but specifically, how quickly are we getting that specialist into the classrooms, helping those children, enriching their curriculum, challenging them so that they aren't bored. So those are my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, there's a...
Oh, great.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Rob Gura. I'm Romeoville. I have a fifth grader in the Challenge program and a first grader in RC Hill. I was lucky enough to be a watchdog at RC Hill, and I got to actually observe my first grader as they were differentiated into different classrooms. I actually took part in his math class. And it was exciting for me to watch how these kids interacted with their teacher, who did a fabulous job, Mrs. Mercado. She's a fantastic teacher. When confronted with a problem with the answer key was incorrect, the way she conducted herself and the way the kids challenged it and she challenged the kids, it was kind of a unique situation. We were all confused why the answer was saying something that clearly was wrong, but she challenged the kids and the kids all worked together. With this proposal, I guess the terrifying thing in this proposal for me is what happens to those kids until, much like the woman before me, what happens to those kids until January? I mean, I understand we're going to be looking at them in the first semester. If this proposal had much more details about what are we going to do to those kids who have been identified in first grade, whether they're part of the preschool syndrome or not, their still needs need to be met. They still need to be continually challenged. We still need to find out how are we going to push those kids to make them the 5% gifted children. What are we going to do in those first two semesters? I mean, there's no offense, but observing a child isn't actually educating the child. I didn't really see anything in the proposal, or maybe I missed it, that really specified how are we going to keep pushing those kids in the second grade. I mean, I'm biased. I had a son who went through it. My son had Mrs. Workus. Anybody who had Mrs. Workus, had a kid, would pay a private school to put their kid in Mrs. Workus's first grade class. And I will quote her by saying, our kids aren't gifted some of the time. They're gifted all the time. They're not gifted when the half an hour to 45 minutes that we need them that they're pulled out for specialization. They're gifted all the time. That's why I think she was such a supporter of the program. I mean, you have to forgive me for loving this program. I was just a dumb kid when I moved to Romeoville, and I just liked the house that we bought. I saw the signs that said, oh, this neighborhood's got Plainfield school districts, and that seemed like a good thing, but I liked where we lived. Turns out I'm so happy with that decision that I'm not in the Plainfield School District, and part of it is the way this board has conducted itself with the challenge program and with these wonderful teachers. You have to forgive me for wanting to get my son in with all of these teachers that I've watched my older son go through. It's very difficult for me to think that I have to wait another year to really get my son pushed to that extra level.
The lady behind you is nodding her head. I think she might have some answers to that.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Mr. Gura,
I know you don't have eyes in the back of your head. Well, if you do.
I think we have another parent, too. We have another parent that wants to.
And thank you again. That's really all my notes.
Mr. Gura, I just wanted to comment on a comment that you made and the parent before. You mentioned Mrs. Mercado, and you said, what would the second grade teachers be doing with the students during that first semester? They would be doing exactly what that first grade team at RC Hill is doing, using all of the information that they have and continue to collect to be doing some of the most incredible, dynamic differentiation, really meeting the kids' needs because they know who their kids are.
Sure.
And they're using all the resources that they can. So our second grade team would be doing just that.
And you can understand from my perspective, I'm watching that happening right now.
Sure,
right?
absolutely.
And so I'm not excited to watch it again happen next year when I can see what's happening right now, when I can see the teachers who we're talking to, at the teacher conferences and with all of the students. There's a substantial amount of students in that math class. It was exciting for me to watch that they would come and ask me questions that I didn't think I was learning about until I was in 4th grade, and these kids are asking me questions about, and I should have brushed up on my math, which I recommend anyone be a watchdog, but brush up on your math before you go in there because you never know what these kids are going to ask you. So.
How'd you do?
It was fun. It was a lot of fun, actually. I've done it a couple of times.
Good, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to offer a little different perspective. I have no dog in this fight. My child has special needs in the district. Not even an issue for me. However, I was a gifted kid. And what I'd like to say is that you all sound very confident that your kids are going to get into this program, and that's awesome. However, what would happen if they didn't? What if for some reason they were not identified as that top 5% of kids who have that gifted something? Wouldn't you want then this exact program to be at the school where your child was going to stay so that they could continue to be identified and continue to be challenged? Because you don't want them sitting there unchallenged. You don't want them sitting there without the things that they need. And I happen to know Ellen personally, and I happen to know her children. And I happen to know that if she hadn't gone to bat for her child and her child hadn't been in that program and she wasn't able to get what she needed in that homeschool environment, it would have caused a lot of problems for her. And she would not be doing as well in school as she is, probably have some behavior issues on your hands. Love her, but it's the reality of the situation. And so all I'm saying is, as a parent who has no dog in this fight, not even a little bit, listening to the presentation and the concerns of these other parents who are here talking about not wanting their kids to be left to just sit and stew. And I happen to also have some great other kids that I know that are in this district that parents couldn't be here tonight who also were tested for this. All of those kids absolutely need to be challenged in whatever classroom they're sitting in. And they need to have specialists. They need to be identified to their unique needs. And I agree with Ellen. I think every kid should have an IEP. So this seems like it's going to meet actually more needs than it's going to cut off less needs.
Thank you. Oh.
Would you like to come?
Sure. Yep, come on up.
Hello, my name is Barbara Primusberger. I have a 5th grader actually in Mrs. Ball's class at Jonas Salk. I know there hasn't been a lot of Salk parents, so I'm representing there. And I have a 1st grader at Jamie McGee who has also been tested and actually went to preschool with Ellen's younger son, so they're kind of little friends. The only thing I am concerned with, and it's kind of been addressed, is I noticed with my first son when he was in 1st grade, he became a little bit of the teacher's helper with some behavioral, because he was a good kid. He didn't need a lot of help in the academic part of it. He was then assigned to sit with children who were struggling to help them catch up because it was such a large class. One thing I liked about going to Jonas Salk is that it was a smaller class, and there was less issues of children acting out, whether they had other issues or whatever it became, and the kids that would have acted out because they were bored were now challenged. So there's an aspect, a social aspect also with a lot of these kids. They do have different needs socially also and emotionally. And I would love for if my first grader didn't make it into the challenge program but did test high. He has good MAP scores and everything, and at my last conference they were telling me go for it. I just want to make sure if he's pulled out that I'm just a little worried that we haven't heard how that's going to be. We haven't heard, do we have the staff? Are we going to have the resources? Are there going to be such big classes that when these clusters start that these kids are going to be like, well, they're helping me? And I'm just very worried. Again, I think Karen mentioned where they haven't said, okay, well, starting in October, you will have your child pulled out for math, and this is what will happen. Because they need to either be in a group of kids that they have a bond with, or they're going to be in flux between their class and then these other groups they're clustered with, and it's going to pull them in a lot of different directions. So I'm just a little worried about the social aspect of that, and that we're going to have the staff too, as far as the observers or the educators or the specialists.
Thank you. And there's one more.
I think there's one more parent, and then I can answer a few of the things that were brought up.
Thank you.
And thank you for giving us this opportunity to address you and also to answer these questions that we have, because this is very personal to us and it's been weighing on our mind. I have read the report. I do like the Project Excel and the Pull-Out program. I think expansion is great, but I don't want the expansion to come with a price, and that price is cutting the second grade challenge program. I think you should have both. Now, in regards to the first semester of second grade being observational, I question how many more tests are our children going to have to take? My first grader is 7 years old. He's taken 4 MAP tests already in kindergarten and first grade. At no time has he been below the 99th percentile in every single MAP test he's taken. Yet he has to be observed again in second grade. That seems a little bit excessive. Also, the second grade challenge program, it's been proven. It has been successful. I don't like the idea of canceling it when you have a pull-out program that is still questionable. It's not been proven. It's still a pilot program. I think it is going to be a great program. However, I think you need both programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think what's clear, and I hope you're going to address some of this. I think what's clear is that there needs to be some explanation of what will happen in second grade.
Yes.
In Excel, and particularly in that first semester.
Yes.
So hopefully you can do that now.
Okay, first of all, I thank everyone for your input, because the more information we have, the better we can make decisions. So thank you so much for sharing your concerns. First of all, everything that we've got, all the decisions have been research-based, and it's all based on the data of the district. We see the second grade.
Let's just get clear, because there's been a couple rumors going around.
Sure.
One is that the get rid of second grade was a financial piece.
That's not.
And two, that somehow we want to model some other school district.
Right. Those are both inaccurate. That was not a decision of our committee for those things. The reason that we look at second grade, and I think with it being the mid-year and taking that first semester, as we shared, looking at truly differentiating for those students, as we heard from the parents, that's really what we want. And we expect that of all of our teachers, to really differentiate. But we also know that the professional development, as well as the resources, are something that we really need to look into. Part of this staggered approach was because we knew we couldn't do this all at one time. We said, okay, what could we handle with capacity of all the other unfunded mandates that we're facing? How can we do this incrementally, but do it right? And that's very important for us, that we look at this long term. Being able to differentiate in the areas of literacy and math to find their true giftedness, we feel, and the committee felt very strongly, we have many children in our challenge program that have strengths in one area or the other. We want to be even more specific for the individual needs. The professional development that will go into the general ed second grade teachers will help support that higher end. If you look at like RTI, and there was comments about special ed, really we see this as a continuation where RTI, it supports the lower end of the students, but with this, we need an opportunity to support our higher end and being really strategic in that support.
Excuse me, you said RTI twice.
Okay.
Response to intervention?
Thank you. I'm sorry. I know there's too many educational lingo. Yes, response to intervention. And basically, we look at data. We look at individual needs of teachers, of students. We give interventions to work on a specific skill. And that's how I would see this as well. Also, another really important component that I heard from several of the parents is the social emotional aspect. That was something that we discussed many, many times in our committee discussions. And we felt by giving time to really look at those individual students, we won't be stopping offering them differentiated and high-level instruction. We will just be getting to know the students in a much more deeper sense.
Elizabeth, can I?
Absolutely.
I'd like to interject something here.
Sure.
From the parents that stood up here, I think we need to get to the field trip version.
Thank you.
Everyone here that came up and expressed some concerns want to know what they're going to be seeing with their second grade students. We can talk about RTI, we can talk about all these results, we can talk about all this professional development, but every one of these parents asked, what's going to be different for their second grade students, because they don't want to be tested again, they don't want to just be observed, they want to know what's going to help with somebody that's taken 4 tests, 99th percentile. What does this program going to offer to those children that we all know, because you guys are the experts, I sure as heck aren't, you guys are what's going to be different to ensure that these young men and women in our district are going to continue to be challenged and not just sort of put in that status quo. And I think for my own sake, we need that field trip version to say, what are we going to do? Because every one of them asked that question.
Okay, so I would say that the committee, when we looking at this very comprehensively, to drill to the detail of how many hours or how many classrooms, that sort of thing will depend on the guidance that we're getting, and we can look at what the needs are. We can roll that out if we know.
I think you're missing. If we go with the recommendation.
Yes.
What exactly, in particular, does first semester look like for second graders next year? What does the specialist do? How many times are they pushing in? How much contact time will these kids get that are been pre-identified? What is that? We need some process here.
Well, I think that some of those details would still need to be worked out. I don't think that we have exactly because we were kind of looking at this holistically. Once we would get a recommendation from you, then we would be able to do some of that second tier planning, because we felt we were a bit premature to get into so many details of that. We know in our minds we want to provide rigorous curriculum instruction, professional development, ensure that all students are getting the support that they need, but that will be something that we'd work together with the committee for the next layer.
What we're looking at now is the data in terms of the numbers of students that we have and the identified benchmarks. And earlier on in the presentation, someone talked about the definition of gifted and academically talented, and then someone else talked about identification. Well, the process that we've had in place before didn't necessarily match. And so now we are in that transitional period where we have students who are already in the program who wouldn't necessarily meet the gifted benchmark if we set a truly gifted benchmark. And so what does that look like in terms of our finite resources, and where could we shift? And so, like Elizabeth said, that's that more in-depth level of planning that would need to take place. And nothing would occur without, that detail. And yes, we would be sharing that with the parents. But at this point in time, we cannot say that your child will receive, this many days of pull out or push in instruction until we are able to go deeper.
Exactly. So what I'm hearing is, I think that the board is very interested in this whole program. I think you need to drill down a little bit and assuage the concerns of several of the parents that are kids are going to be coming into second grade. Obviously, there's a handful of them here tonight. Communicating to them individually or collectively would be a fine idea, but also bouncing some of that off through Rachel so that we're all informed as well.
Sure.
I mean, because I agree. Everything you guys have done is good stuff. They have some very legitimate concerns,
Absolutely.
and we need to get those. But I think I'm just speaking for myself because we're certainly not taking a vote on this tonight. But I think we're going in the right. We're all rowing in the right direction.
Absolutely.
But there are some sidebars here that need to be handled.
And we could do like a hybrid. I mean, the
Elizabeth,
recommend.
Elizabeth, see, you keep, if we went with the recommendation,
Mm-hmm.
right, we really need to know what second grade is going to look like. I don't know, we don't need 8 plans. We need to know what it looks like with the plan that you've created. That's, and that unknown is causing a lot of trepidation.
And you're correct, Member Grue just said, and we'll bring to the board a very specific plan. A lot of that depends on the identification of the kids, the number of kids that we identify, how much resources are going to be required as a result of that, whether or not we can sustain that or not sustain that. A lot of that has to do with whether or not we go with plan every school and plan self-contained. So we have to look at that the total context. If it appears that we cannot if we cannot support these kids in the manner that's being suggested as a result of a lack of resources or some other factor, then we will adjust to ensure that we're able to meet the needs of those kids that are those upper tier kids that aren't necessarily challenged kids, while at the same time meeting the needs of the challenged kids, and it could very well still be in a self-contained program.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a piece here that we're missing, and I think, again, I can't tell you guys how awesome it is to hear this presentation, and I hear the parents with their concerns out there, but I understand the specifics of what's going to happen to second grade. But I think what's missing here, and I think it needs to be clear, is that this is a great problem to have, right? And that we should be celebrating what we're doing here at our school district. Because the problem that we're having is that we have a lot of children that are excelling, that need that additional challenge, right? And I think that's what's missing here, that's the program that we want to expand, because we have more children that are going to be receiving these services that need to be challenged, right, in their local home schools. And I think that's the piece that's missing, that this is a very good problem to have. And I'm sure that we can get down and drill down and find out exactly what's going to happen to second grade. But it shouldn't be, it should only be my child or his child or your child. It should be given an opportunity to all the children out there that are excelling, that are doing well. So I think that's the piece that's missing here, that the community needs to understand that this is a good thing, that we have to celebrate the fact that our kids are doing better, and that we have a larger amount of a larger cluster or a large pool of children that are excelling and that are doing well because of all the pieces that we put together. And I think that's the piece that's missing here. But you know what? Great job. Give us what you guys got to do on the second grade. I think the proposal is awesome as it stands. Anything that means expansion, the big risk here is that if we don't expand, we're going to go in reverse.
We will refine our information and come back with a much more detailed proposal on what that will look like, with suggestions concerning whether or not we continue with the self-contained program or we make a recommendation not to. And I'm going to cut it off, Elizabeth, because we have these teachers that have been standing here. They got to get up and go to and teach again tomorrow. And so I want to thank them again for and the parents too. I'm sure you got little ones. You got to get up in the morning. So let's cut this short right now and let these teachers get out of here so that they can go home. It's 9:35 and
right.
I don't want to keep them here any longer.
Thank you,
Thank you,
parents and teachers.
I thank the parents for your comments too, and those will be working with you as we go forward. Summer learning experience.
Yes, our final information report tonight.
You called it the summer. What'd you call it?
What?
The field trip version. The field trip version.
Okay, I'm going to give it to you. Here we go. So
I got my lunch bag. I'm ready to go.
All right, information 14.3 is regarding our elementary summer learning experience program. Upon presentation of our original information report on January 12th, the board requested additional information relative to prior year's enrollment, site location, and transportation. Elizabeth Martinez worked with Joanne Bohr, who's our Director of Finance, and our SLE committee to review these additional considerations. Upon review of these variables, the committee has identified that the most favorable option is to run 3 sites as proposed. Figure A, which can be found in the information report that's posted publicly on board docs, provides a breakdown as to what it would incur to run 3 sites, both with and without transportation, and the enrollment that would be needed and the associated costs to run a cost-neutral program. And then any deviation from that bar would indicate the investment that the district would make into the program. There's a very detailed executive summary that's provided for you also on board docs, and you are welcome to review that, and we are able to answer any questions that you may have. Figure A in the information report breaks down the 3 sites as well as the enrollment and compares our costs to the neighboring park districts, Romeoville and Bolingbrook, what they charge per week for their programming. And so our recommendation is to run 3 sites as presented.
Real quick question.
Yes, sir.
Just on the first page of this, it looks like on the information report, 14.3, that page.
Yes.
The number of enrollees is like down.
Okay,
way
so
down. Is that because it just hasn't been promoted this time?
No, well, in 2012, some of the students were counted twice as enrollees because they were in a half-day program. So they were in multiple sections. At that point, we had broken it up. So that number is a little bit misleading, but we do know by the 2013 and 2014 information that we did see a slight decrease.
Okay.
And so as requested, we did look by site enrollment, and we did look by which homeschool the students came from, depending on which site they attended.
I was just curious.
And I know Member Felice had also asked that question, and we did find, depending on which school, where the location was held, some students traveled, some buildings traveled, I'd say, better to other locations, and then other buildings did not.
Okay.
So that's just an
so location is part of it.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Just a quick, the executive summary isn't coming up. It's not
Okay,
opening.
I blame the technicians.
Will it open for me?
He's shaking his head. No.
Just so you know.
It's opening. Yeah.
It's not opening on this
Okay.
end. Sorry.
Well, we will
I got mine.
ensure that it is accessible, and I will personally email you a copy. Okay. Mhm.
You'll be bringing this back to us.
We certainly will, and we're well. We do have a very tight timeline because we do have to move forward with hiring and program preparation and planning. So we will be bringing it back in 2 weeks, and so we're happy to answer any questions that you have between now and then.
While she's talking or just finishing up those remarks, I have some friends whose children have used this program. Mine have not, but I think one of them wished he would have. From every report that I've ever gotten from anybody, it's an outstanding program. So if you are looking for something to do with your son and daughter in the summertime, and they get, it's fun. It's also educational. So it's like the double whammy for the kids and the parents. You're getting your bang for your buck, as it were.
Absolutely.
So.
I guess I'm just trying to follow this real quick.
Mhm.
So you're saying the Bolingbrook district resident fee is $83 per week?
Correct, and then that cost increases after the early registration to $107.
Well, that's Romeoville. That's $94.
I'm sorry, that's.
On mine,
I
it says-
apologize. Yes,
okay.
that's Romeoville.
And then Valley View is $100 per week.
Correct, and Romeoville is 94.
All right. So was it, to take this more on the business marketing side, is there a proposal in here that says we'll do it as you guys propose, except for we'll change our costs to be more competitive? Because 83 versus 100 is not really competitive.
Right, and so if you look on this figure A that's been presented,
Mhm.
you will see if we lower the fee all the way down to $50, you see increments starting, it goes 100 and then it moves down. What our enrollment would need to be and what the average class size would be. So, it's just that
Need to be for what?
to run a cost-neutral program. Then any other deviation from there, if the board tells us what investment that the district would like to make, then we could adjust that fee accordingly. Same as if we had provided transportation from shuttle sites or not. That would be another consideration. So if you look at this like a sliding scale, we could adjust our fee most certainly, and then that would have an impact on either A, the required enrollment, B, the class size, and or C, the investment from the district.
I just think that we are losing students because we're not the cheapest option. I think we're the best option. But let's take a family of 3, right, and we are charging $17 more per child, per week. That really starts to add up. That's a couple $100 by the end of the month.
Yeah, we certainly recognize that, and that's why we presented this information in the way that it is presented, and with the additional attachment. And we can make adjustments, whatever the board's will is. And so if you say that we have the authority to lower that fee, we most certainly can. And then the associated information that we need to know is what implication does that have on class size? And if we change the number of sites, for example.
To be quite honest, we really don't know, right? So if we change the fee to, say, $80, and we're the lowest cost program out there, we really don't know how many more. We think that'll give us more student enrollment, but we really don't know how much more student enrollment that'll give us.
Right, and so there's no way to really forecast that. And so what our Director of Finance so aptly helped us with was forecasting the number of students that we would need to register to hit that break-even point. And then we can look back at our couple years enrollment trend of where we've been and say, are we going to hit this? If we really increase our marketing, could we increase it, to what extent? But even then, there's no guarantee. Right. And so we certainly could lower that fee to be the most competitive option out there.
Well, right now, we're the most expensive option. So I think that it's, my personal opinion, I think it's bad that we're the most expensive option.
Well, first, thank you, because this is exactly what I was asking for. I'm a charts and a report kind of guy. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is if we lower it from a price standpoint, mm-hmm. again, I'm in sales too, so it's not all about price. It's how we're marketing and how
Absolutely.
We're going out to the people to say, why is it worth to pay $17 more versus going to the Bolingbrook Park District, which they have a fabulous program. But what you're saying is to lower it in essence by 17%, we need to increase enrollment by like 25%. But there's no guarantee on the enrollment size. So I guess my question then turns to a marketing side of how are we marketing why our program is worth that $100?
Right, and that's something that we can tell you the past history, and then we can also take suggestions for improvement. But the big marketing, I believe, advantage that we have, and maybe we're not communicating it effectively enough, is the linkage to the learning that's taking place during the school year, is the fact that we have certified, qualified
Bingo.
Teachers on staff.
Bingo.
And the fact that our students are here with us. And so to me, that's the huge benefit. So if I'm, the Romeoville Park District, for example, that's $94 per week. And so then I look at that benefit. Now, that being said, we can take direction from the board however we see fit, but there'll be an incremental investment by the district dependent upon enrollment. And we most certainly can adjust our marketing, we can adjust our fee. We just need that commitment from the board to be able to support that.
I just want to give a little history, though. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Rick. My last question is this. What data do we have that shows side by side of what the park districts offer versus what we offer? Because if you've got parents that are just looking for glorified daycare, our program isn't going to work for them, no matter what we pay, what we charge them. But if the majority of the parents can see that benefit of this is what you're going to get for $94 or $87 or $83, but this is what you're going to get for $100, and you're going to be able to show certified personnel,
free breakfast and lunch.
That's a marketing standard. As well as helping reduce that summer loss. So I think we need to see what are we looking at and comparing apples to apples, because right now that 83 to 100, we may not be apples to apples. We may be offering a heck of a lot more for $100 than the park districts. And this is not, please, publicly, this is not. I don't want to bash the park district programs, but I want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples, so that 100 to 83 is truly a $17 difference. I mean, 17% is huge. So
I think the one problem I would have in the history of this is that when we started the program, we were cheaper than the Park District. The first year we did it, we were cheaper than Romeoville Park District and Bolingbrook Park District. They actually adjusted some of their costs down after ours because they experienced some loss of students and money. So now we're more expensive. And here's what happened. After the first year, we surveyed the parents. Like 90-some% of the parents said the program was great. But then the next year, and they would recommend it to a friend, but then the next year we had less people in it. And I don't know how we get away from the fact that price was a big factor in that. They loved the program the kid was in. Absolutely loved it. The next year, we were more expensive. We were even more expensive than we're recommending, I think, now. We were more expensive, and we lost numbers. You know, price is a big push here. And I think that if we don't address that, we're potentially going to lose students, plus the fact we have to understand that our district is 62% free and reduced lunch, identified as low income. This is not a subsidized program. We do have some scholarships that we're doing, but I think that we can't look past the price.
We recognize
Yeah, we absolutely recognize that.
I remember the conversation previously about the fact that if we needed to adjust our revenue to support this program, because what I heard from some of the board members was that the need for it to be cost neutral was less important now than it was when we first started the program. So again, we can adjust the price to whatever the board's will is that we adjust the price.
Absolutely.
With the caveat that the board is willing to approve the necessary expenditure to keep the program running.
Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly enough, Member Felice, I wanted to comment that we have some early conversations starting with some Park District reps about really harnessing our resources in partnering, providing service to our community. And so that may be something that we can really work to develop perhaps by the following summer. So I certainly don't want to be viewed that we're in competition with our park districts. We're not in business. We're in this for our kids. So
we're in competition.
Well,
there's only so many kids.
You're right.
So many kids are going to summer
but
programs.
If we can have an impact to where we say let's partner, so that we can have some input into the quality of the programs for all kids, or it's one program, whether it be at the rec or at the BRAC, then I think that's a win-win, because the parents are going to get the best deal cost-wise, and our kids are going to get the best experience learning and fun-wise. So I think that really is a win-win, and I prefer to look at it as a partnership.
So there's clearly some value to the program. The question is, how are we going to fund this? So quickly, can you come up with some money?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? Can we get the money from the
buckets
state?
of them dripping out of Springfield.
Because that's what it comes down to. I think Mr. Vice President Gujas brings up a good point. If our school district has 60% students that are free or reduced lunch, then that means there's some financial impact there, right? And obviously, we're not in the business to make money out of the program, but at least pay for it. But if it makes sense to absorb some of that cost, because we know that this 60% are the kids that actually need that learning, so that there isn't that loss, then it's something that we're going to have to consider doing. And I mean, I don't think that we've ever looked at the program and said we're not willing to spend. I think we just spent $300,000 on a boiler. I think we can probably do something.
If we know the board's threshold,
50, 60 grand on a.
If we know the board's threshold, that will help guide us on how we can move forward.
Well, maybe the threshold has changed.
Right, and that's
And
what we're
perhaps
saying.
it has.
We're looking for
But
guidance.
I mean, it's a little tough because it's been, the board never said it had to be cost neutral. So that never came from the board.
Right.
That the program had to be cost neutral. Never once did that come from the board. I was at the first committees. That was never a board initiative. I mean, I know where the initiative came from, but it didn't come from the board.
I respect that. We must have misunderstood.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Duly noted. Then let's take a look at those figures again and absorb the cost.
Next.
Absolutely.
Next up, legal services report.
No formal report.
There better not be an informal report either.
Thank you.
He's our guest lawyer.
Guest
on our
lawyer.
longest
Unless he
meeting.
just woke up.
That's why he's got
Our
that bright
longest
red tie on.
meeting.
AFT report.
Thanks,
Valley
Diane.
View Council report. Thank you. Valley View Office Personnel report. Apparently no report. Any old business before the board this evening? Any new business before the board this evening? Any questions from the public on actions we have taken this evening? Seeing none, moving on. Any announcements by the board?
Yes, election, April 7th, early vote and absentee vote, and election day vote. It's taking place early now. An election is for school board and all the other local elections, so don't forget to vote.
I have just a couple things. First and foremost, good luck to Bolingbrook High School varsity basketball. They're in the sectional semifinals Wednesday night against Plainfield East. And hopefully they'll win, and they'll be playing for the sectional championship on Friday night. The games are at Bolingbrook High School, so wish them the best of luck. Secondly, to Ms. Martinez and your groups, I hope you understand that the questions and everything else, it's just trying to absorb everything. So I want to personally make sure that everybody on the team understands and how much I personally appreciate all their efforts and work, and it's not for naught, but I think this is what we do as a group. And I think my last point, tonight's probably in my short term on the board, in a little over 2 years, probably by far the best board meeting I've had the pleasure of attending, from student recognition to a variety of student type recognition, from culinary to sports to just everything. Teacher recognition, the hard work of parents getting involved, teachers getting involved, administration, and senior leadership. And that's why I personally choose to live in this district. That's why my children attend school in this district, and why I will do everything I can to help support this district and everything. But it's just an honor to be a part of the whole puzzle, so thank you.
What Mr. Felice said, and school plays this weekend, next weekend. Check them out. High school, middle school, good stuff going on out there.
Any others? I forget, honestly, I'm brain dead at this point. I forget what school was hosting, but there's a St. Baldrick's.
McGee.
Jamie McGee, St. Baldrick's. I'm not shaving this bean, but I will give some money to not have to shave my head. Who is?
Principal.
Oh, nice. What? Throw up a little. Can you give me a little details?
Laura Lucas, one of our principals, is also, she's not shaving, but she will.
Bob.
9 inches she'll cut off.
Nice. Is she going to sell that hair, or not sell it, but donate the hair? Good. That's great.
I'm in.
You're in?
I'm in.
Adam and
Jamie McGee, Saturday morning at 9 to 12. Thank you. And I'm sure there's other St. Baldrick's things coming up this weekend.
Lots of good stuff.
along with Mr. Brown.
Or maybe next week, yeah. So that's all the announcements by the board. Any announcements by the administration?
Yes, I have no announcements.
I have a few. I'll give you the quick version. Parents, please take our 5 essential survey. The window has been extended to March 20th. You can find the link available on our website or your school's website, or you can visit the school to take this, and please, we want to hear your feedback. I'd also like to thank our staff, district level, building level, and our students for a successful long road of planning for Park. And it has gone off very smoothly, knock on wood, but it has just been phenomenal. And to see our students so easily navigating, using the tools, they seem like they've been using the technology for years. So it's highly impressive, and kudos to the planning and implementation, because it's been a lot of work. And so thank you guys. And then also I'd like to invite the community out to a open forum town hall meeting on March 19th at 6:30 p.m. We'll be at Lukanzik Middle School on Normantown Road. And please come out. It's an open style format, and you can ask questions to the various departments and ask questions of our superintendent, Dr. Mitchum. So please come out and join us on March 19th. Thank you.
Any announcements by the public? Hearing none, seeing none. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Any second? Yes. We have a second. Mr. Felice, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Have a great night. Drive safely. Enjoy the warm weather.